Good morning, everyone. It is bright and early. We have one of two U.S. men's national team friendlies out of the 2022 World Cup. It is coming very, very quickly, less than 60 days away. This is Club and Country Qatar 2022 Watchalong. We're doing watchalongs for every single U.S. and Canada game all the way through the World Cup, however long that lasts. We hope well into the month of November, maybe even longer. I am here with Charlie Davies, Michael Parkhurst, two great guys to watch the game with a little attacking flavor. And Chuck, Parky, we got the defensive side of the ball and some experience under Greg Berhalter as well. Good morning, guys. The lineups obviously are out. Dusseldorf, Germany is the location for U.S.-Japan here in about 10 minutes. Charlie, what are we eating? What has Nina prepared for you on this fine morning?
I had a nice acai bowl. I feel ready to go. We're healthy. We're grooving. Let's go.
Just fueled up in the right way. You know, always that way. Michael, has someone pampered you this morning, or were you grinding away on your own?
No, I poured my own cereal and my own orange juice and cup of tea.
Hey, I made my own acai bowl. God, what's going on here?
Just checking, Charlie. Just checking. Should be a wonderful morning. Of course, this afternoon in Germany for this U.S. M&T team. We're live with you on YouTube Live and Twitch. I will start you off with this one, folks out there. What are you eating for breakfast right now? What time is it? Where are you? I had some folks hit me up and say, hey, I'm like a night shift guy, so this works well for me. They're going to crack beers this morning. Had somebody sent me a frozen pizza as a picture of their breakfast. That is a choice. Just you do you. Maybe I'd suggest an acai bowl like Chuck, just to keep the insides motoring along at the right pace. We'll get to the lineup in just a second, but the big news here is Christian Pulisic not in the lineup. Charlie, I'll start with you, man. It's a knock picked up in training. Had he, let's say this is a World Cup game. Let's say this is, Wales. He would be available for Greg Berhalter. In this case, they're going to take it easy. They talked to Chelsea about it. He could be available in Murcia, Spain. What do you think about this absence? What's it mean for the U.S.? What's it mean for this lineup that Greg Berhalter is putting out?
I would love to have Christian Pulisic in this lineup because if he's healthy, he will be starting against Wales in the first game of the World Cup. However, I also like to see what it looks like without him because he's not playing. He's not confident. He's not in form. Let's get Gio Reyna, Aronson on the pitch together. So I like it that your backup plan is get Gio Reyna starting. So I think Gio Reyna has so much to offer. The potential is through the roof. He's now getting fit and healthy at Dortmund. It'll be a good opportunity to see what he looks like.
We've got someone watching from Tbilisi in Georgia, like not Georgia, the U.S., like Georgia in the Caucasus, which is pretty awesome. At pizza for lunch. Hey, it's a different time zone. That's the way it works. What's up, Frankie Emmerich? We got some other guys in here. Antoine is live from France. He's finishing lunch at a beautiful cafe. That's fun.
Oh,
Panama, Bocas del Toro, Panama. Will Herrera. This is an international show. Where aren't you coming from? Rice and beans for lunch, trying to figure out the game, how you're watching it online. Very is very tired, says just food. So very is very tired. I'm with you, man. I got a day-old cinnamon roll here. I had some big expectations for what I was going to prepare this morning.
That sounds so delicious.
I was thinking, hey, Charlie, full breakfast, over easy eggs, some nice wheat toast, some fruit, some bacon. Didn't happen for me. It's just coffee and day-old pastries. Let's take a look at the full lineup here as we await these teams coming out. Japan, of course, the opponent, a World Cup team in their own right. Anders, if you want to throw up that lineup, we'll get Parky's thoughts on it here. There you see it. I think we definitely think that, obviously it's Adams. Probably you would think De La Torre next to him in that double pivot, Michael, because that's what Greg has been going with lately. That's a big subplot of this game. Will he stick with that sort of midfield structure? Reyna and Aronson, which sides will they occupy? TBD. What stands out to you from this 11 from Greg Berhalter?
Yeah, I think it's a big opportunity for De La Torre and for Vines. Two guys that are replacing would-be starters that are out injured. And so they can lock down a backup position or somebody to be relied upon if need be. And so I think that's big opportunities for those guys and for Aaron Long as well. For me, I think that if he continues to play well and does well in these couple games, it's his spot to lose next to Zimmerman. But it's his to lose, right? So he can lose it if he plays poorly. And so a big opportunity for him as well. And like Chuck said, I'm excited to see Aronson and Reyna on the field at the same time because, if the group is fully healthy, I'm not sure that happens. So it's interesting to see what those front three look like together.
Charlie, how do you think this attacking group meshes without Christian Pulisic?
I think De La Torre and McKennie are both 8s in this system, and Adams is the lone 6. And then I'm excited because Aronson and Reyna are all about movement and coming into the midfield. So it's really going to be on Vines and Dest to provide the width and get into the attack. We all know Serginho Dest can ball in the attacking half. He's got so, going to Milan, the whole idea is him really developing as a right back, as a defender and defending first, which has not been his strong suit. So I want to see what he looks like in transition. How does he defend, his starting points, but also is he timing his runs and not just staying high to stay high because he wants the ball, but more importantly, making his run as that ball is coming out.
By the way, first start for Gio Reyna for the U.S. since El Salvador on September 2nd, 2021. If you don't remember what game that was, it was the opening game of
0-0
World
draw
Cup qualifying.
Yeah.
That's a long time ago. Seems like ancient history right now. National anthem's going down in Dusseldorf. We just got a Corey Gibbs shot on the national anthem. Can't keep this guy off the camera. Ryan McCart, what's up, man? He's in Juarez, Mexico, having a coffee this morning. David Lopez woke up to y'all's beautiful voices from Texas. I don't believe you when you say that. You're just trying to flatter us, David Lopez. And Nathan Maynard is in the same great state as Michael Parkhurst, feeling bored at 8:22 a.m. In Ohio, drinking a coffee. So waiting for this one to kick off. Just 2 games left. National anthem's going down. Japan is the opponent for the U.S. We are watching these comment sections very closely on Twitch and YouTube Live. Has somebody on Twitch say wrap Gio Reyna in bubble wrap. Parky, you and I were sort of joking before this, saying like it almost doesn't occur to us that Gio would be available. From your standpoint as a defender, when you scout Gio Reyna, what do you see?
Oh, he's crafty. He's tough to defend because he just seems a little awkward. And you think that, he's not that fast or he's not that strong, right? He just seems a little lanky. But then all of a sudden he's dribbling right by you or he's gliding right by you. He just seems to like get those long legs going. He's just accelerates past you. He likes to come inside, like Chuck said, and I'm excited to see him play because, like you said, it's been a while to see how he combines with the group. Greg's got a very particular style that he wants his wingers to play and what he wants them to do, and so to see if he can do those things within this system, I'm really looking forward to it because he's one of the most talented players when he's fully fit that we have.
Charlie, we've been asking for this for a while. I mean, asking is one way. We've been begging. We've been hoping. We've been you wrap him in bubble wrap is one thing, but just getting him healthy seemed like another thing entirely. You've dealt with a number of injuries. Go inside Gio's head in this match. Do you think he's completely over? Is it out of his mind, or do you think that lingering thought of perhaps injury still sticks there somewhere? I heard Tyler and Weston saying yesterday nobody can change the way they play, and I get that, but I think there's a human side of it as well, where everybody sees the World Cup on the horizon, and it has to at least be somewhere in your brain.
No, I don't think he's thinking about injury in this moment because he's playing with Dortmund and more importantly, he's come off the bench in the first half due to injury. So he's got some minutes under his belt. I think you move past it and you can't think about injuries because that hinders you. That doesn't allow you to continue to move forward. So for me, he's focused on making a difference with this group and showing that he deserves to be in the starting 11.
We're waiting for kickoff here. We've got the Japan lineup up. No Takumi Minamoto, so that's a bummer for those of us that want to watch him play. But this is a team going to the World Cup as well, ranked 24th in the world, as you can see. If you just now joined us, no Christian Pulisic, injured in training, has a knock on that one. A number of injuries for the U.S., so this is a 26-man roster that is going to be chopped and changed. November 9th is the date in New York City that the U.S. will announce their final roster. Greg Berhalter has said, look, FIFA's not going to lock us in until 5 days later. Even then, a lot can change in 5 days. Speaking of a few days from now, Tuesday, 2 p.m. Eastern, Saudi Arabia is the next opponent. That game's going down in Spain. Just to remind you on the U.S. lineup, we've got Turner in goal, Matt Turner, Zach Steffen back with Middlesbrough training. He's not hurt, but trying to earn playing time at the club level. Sam Vines in at left back. That's a spot to watch. I'll get your thoughts on that in a second, Michael. Aaron Long, Walker Zimmerman, Serginho Dest across the back line. The midfield three, no Yunus Musa. He's back with Valencia. Luca De La Torre, Tyler Adams, Weston McKennie, Brendan Aronson, Jesus Ferreira, and Gio Reyna up top. You mentioned the style of play. Michael, and you're very, very familiar with what Greg wants. Spent a number of years with him in Columbus. When you see how this national team plays right now and compare that to what Greg asked for now all those years ago, what are the differences? What are the similarities? What is his sort of core belief as to how to play?
Well, I think you see there's a lot of responsibility on the goalkeeper and the center backs to play out of the back, keep the ball on the ground, possess the ball moving forward, dropping the six in between the center backs sometimes, having your wingers tuck in. He's all about occupying space, moving, getting the ball side to side, creating overloads on one side to get to the end line and get the ball in the box. I think the national team's got a little bit more freedom, as they should, higher quality players than we have in Columbus. So I'll be really interested to see, like today, I think Japan is a team that presses high sometimes. And so for the U.S., what's the balance between playing out and when do you play long? And are they on the same page, right? Because if you're just lumping the ball forward to Ferreira by himself with center backs, that's not a recipe for success.
All right, we are off in Dusseldorf. I have 10 seconds on my clock. So normally the way these watch-alongs go is that Charlie's ahead and he celebrates things or tries to mess with us. So know that I'm watching you, Charlie. I remember. I don't forget. I just waited for you to come in here. Nothing happened. Already down the right flank here. Service coming in for the U.S. Out for a throw-in.
What's your time clock say, Parky?
36, 37.
All right, we go. We're just a couple seconds off here. Charlie, what's yours say? Just, for the sake of posterity here.
It says 52, 53.
Okay. 54. All right. I'm with you. We had a comment from Shot from Japan, first shot of the match, straight into the bread basket of Turner.
For those people who are very against Aaron Long starting, that's some fuel for them. But I would say it's early in the game. Let's see how his play continues, because again, he might not be in the best of form with Red Bulls, but Greg believes this partnership. And I think regardless if Cameron Carter-Vickers was healthy or not, that Aaron Long would be starting this match.
It's a tough ask for Aaron Long, by the way, because his Red Bulls team play the almost exact opposite of what he's asked to do with Berhalter. So it's really, I would assume it's very challenging for him to go from one team to the other, just style of play wise.
Yes, agreed.
How much pressure is put on you as a center back under Greg? You mentioned sort of like, hey, you got to be able to play out of the back. He wants you to be able to carry the ball. Like, take me inside that sort of that role and how it challenged you and what it asks of you specifically. What's difficult about it?
Yeah, I mean, playing out of the back is obviously one of my biggest strengths as a player, and even I found it very challenging under Greg sometimes because, he demands you to make the right decision all the time and find the correct passes. But sometimes, the other teams are set up well and it's not there, and you feel like you have to force it sometimes. And and like I said earlier, you get in that mind frame of a team is pressing and like, when do you play safe and kick the ball long or try and find a longer pass? And when do you take that pressure upon yourself to break a line, even though it's going to be tight. So that's a huge challenge for center backs under Greg.
I would say, Parky, it took your group with the crew a good year of trying to find the balance of playing out of the back versus the smart, sensible play, dumping it into a channel or playing, direct to the striker's feet or to Kai's head. It took a year for you guys to get on the right page, because in the beginning, I mean, there were some rough moments where you're like, are they really taking that many touches, or are they really playing to the keeper and they expect Steve Clark to like play out of this? So
definitely.
I feel like for these guys playing, it's not that they have that much time to build that chemistry and that understanding. So you're like, I trust that you can build out of the back, but I'm always more of the center backs. I don't want you on the ball that much, so just play it into a channel for your boy.
Yeah, there's a huge risk reward factor, right? I mean, you break a line with a beautiful pass, it doesn't necessarily lead to a chance for you, right? But if that ball gets picked off, it's likely to lead to a chance for them, right? So where's the risk reward?
We shout out to Forecast Nate, multitasking in Boca Raton. We've also got Crombulus Fart. I'm sorry, I guess I just read that out loud on Twitch, who says that De La Torre is looking great so far. It's been 4 minutes, so we'll get into De La Torre a little bit more. Right now, Japan seems to have the better of the play, some of the pressure they're applying, putting the U.S. under it a little bit. Block shot there, nicely done from Walker Zimmerman. But Chuck Charles Jr. asks, thoughts on this being a tryout for Pepe and Sargent. Winner goes to Qatar alongside Jesus and P-Folk. P-Folk, that's a question. Taylor Twellman, before this game began, pretty plugged in, saying that he does not think Jordy P-Folk will make this roster. What do you think about that, Charlie? Do you agree with Taylor? Do you think that's right?
I mean, you're really going out on a whim there, just because everyone knows he's performing in the Bundesliga for the top team in the Bundesliga. He's not getting called in. I mean, more than likely he's not going because he's not getting called in. So it's not crazy to say that, but I'm going to say if he continues to score goals and Union Berlin continue to be at the top of the Bundesliga, I don't see how he does not make this roster, given that there's 26 players on this for the World Cup. I think he's going to eventually say, you know what, you can't keep him off. You can't, because he's developing too. I mean, I know they play in a two-striker system, and that's where he thrives. So you're not banking on starting Jordy P-Folk for the U.S. men's national team in this system. I get it. But you also have to adjust in the World Cup. Sometimes you have to go to two strikers. And if you're going to two strikers, that is the ideal substitute, because you need a big body who's just a goal scorer who can get on the end of crosses and just cause havoc just with his big body. That's what he does. And so I'm more likely and inclined to say there's still a good chance that he can make it, especially if he continues at this pace.
Do you think he should be there, Michael?
I mean, should is tough, right? Because it's always, everyone sees the game differently. It's whatever the coach thinks and what he thinks fits the group and on the field and off the field. But as an outsider looking in, just looking at statistics and everything, yes, right? He's more informed than Pepe, for sure. So, and doing it at a high level, right? He's not just scoring the goals anywhere, right? He's at the top team in the Bundesliga right now, which is one of the top leagues in the world. So, by that account, I'm surprised as well.
We talked about what he asked of center backs, Greg Berhalter. What did he ask of forwards? Because we always kind of joked, forward whisper. It seemed like forwards went to Columbus, put under Greg, and bam, career years followed. Oh, Charlie, typical. Nice little ball whipped out here. Serginho Dest on the right. Takes his touch in behind, crossing position, dinks it over. Ferreira just couldn't get high enough. They'll immediately say,
so far ahead of me.
7:02 on this front right now. 7:02. Right on 7 minutes. First chance for the U.S. I mean, Ferreira alone in the 6-yard box. Nice little clip ball from Serginho Dest. Should he have done better, Charlie?
1,000%. For me as a striker in that position, and he did all the hard work, which is getting in that open area, finding that little pocket. Perfect to pull off the center back there for the cross. But again, you gotta put it on goal. And you can't tell me that P-Folk does not put that.
Well, I didn't want to make the joke that like a couple extra
I'm just
inches.
saying, we're talking about a big striker.
That is prime P-Folk.
That's all I'm
right
gonna
there.
say.
That's probably a prime P-Folk moment right there. TK over on YouTube Live says the bottom right commentator, that's you, Parky, looks like Mark Van Bommel a little bit. I'm sure that's the first time you've ever heard that.
Definitely the first time. I've heard that. Yes.
Yes.
I think he's a good-looking guy, so I don't mind that.
Isn't Sam Vines playing for Van Bommel right now? I think I could be wrong, but I think Sam Vines is playing for Van Bommel in Belgium. Let's check it. What do we think of this left back position, Michael? It's sort of it's Jedi's like when he's healthy,
For sure.
but as we've seen with this team and any team, but this team in particular, it feels like maybe it's just because we're locked in on it at all times. Injuries are liable to be a real concern. Yeah, Mark Van Bommel, manager of Royal Antwerp. What do you think of the opportunity in front of Sam Vines here? What's he got to show you?
It's great. It's a big opportunity. I think that he's the most sensible left back replacement. He's a natural left back, and now that he's playing well for his club team and starting week in and week out, it makes sense. So want to see him combine well going forward, right? That's super important for Greg, how he combines with his winger, right? What's his movement like off the winger, getting forward into the attack, but also, and probably more importantly, right, what's the relationship with Aaron Long there on the left-hand side? If those two are going to start together in the World Cup, and yes, it's Jedi's position, right? But you're saying worst case, right? Jedi's not available for a game. Is it going to be Vines and Long possibly together, right? What's that relationship look like? Does Vines see everything, tucking in at the right moments, when to go forward, when to hang out, all those different types of things that you want to see from a player getting an opportunity like this.
We've got Vincent Alvarado saying Twitter on live support after an MLS striker failed to score. I actually think it's the other way around. I think this is just fuel for Twitter. Personally, I'm having trouble breathing, and I might have some internal bleeding going on just from Ferreira's lack of a finish there. But long game to go. 10 minutes into U.S., Japan, and Dusseldorf, first of two friendlies. And then it's the World Cup. That's coming really quick. Pepe Himovic, he's really going for two likable guys in his combined names. At the gym, but really want to see this game. It's a different generation, man. Watching YouTube live at the gym, that's a little different for me. But what's up, man? How's it going, Pepe? And then Will Herrera says chemistry matters, but you need the talent of PFOC on the bench, especially with that extended roster. I got to think an extended roster came. I mean, it's a bummer, Michael. That extended roster came now and not in 2014 because we might be having a different conversation right now. What are these guys thinking about as it pertains to ultimately November, and you want to be on that roster, but a lot of things can happen between then and now. How did you experience it?
Yeah, every performance matters. Every opportunity matters, especially when you have it in front of the national team coach and with the group, right? So that's why this opportunity for somebody like Vines and De La Torre is so important. Fringe players that are likely to be on the plane fighting for time, but for other guys that are going to get into this game or the next one, these minutes, every opportunity, every training session is so important, because you don't know what's going to happen, right? You don't know when injuries are going to pick up, who's going to be playing well, who's not. So it's tough. You want to be supportive of your teammates, but at the same time, you want to look out for yourself and fight for your own and make sure that you get on that plane with the team. And then you can bond with as a team, right? But you want to get on that plane first.
Yeah, hard to bond if you're not there, huh? We got Ruben Riviera up at 2:30 in the morning to watch this game in Hawaii. We better win. That's fandom in a nutshell, baby. I'm watching, so we better win. We gotta win. TK's asking if the U.S.'s goalkeeper is the Arsenal guy. Yes, he is, quote unquote, the Arsenal guy. Probably going to get a good number of games in Europa League before this World Cup. That's a good thing.
Speaking of that, Andrew,
go ahead.
That's an interesting thing for me, right? You've got 3 potential U.S. starters for the World Cup that may not get much playing time between now and the World Cup for the club teams.
Oh my God!
Oh no, Charlie!
Oh my God!
U.S. is playing out of the back right now. Walker Zimmerman, and that is taken away quite easily. Ball slipped in. Save off of Turner's chest/face. All right, that's some tough moments here in possession from the center backs. You shook your head there, Parky. What?
Oh, it's just what I was
they're
talking.
trying to play out here. Yeah,
It's just what I was talking about earlier. You've got that pressure to play out of the back, but you've got these guys. That wasn't a bad pass. The guy read it, right? He baited Zimmerman into it, and he read it perfectly. And that's the chance you take, right? That's the risk that you take. And some of that's on Greg. If Greg wants his guys to continue to play out of the back, mistakes like that will happen for sure. So the risk reward it's real.
And that goes back to when we were playing against the Crew. We knew that's what you wanted to do. That's how you guys played. So we would set up traps, knowing that we would most likely the ball played here or here, and it worked. It worked to perfection because we know that if a coach is saying you have to play out of the back, we are not playing long, that they will take that risk. That it's okay to take that risk. And in the international game, players are just so smart. It's so much quicker. They're so much smarter that it's a lot more difficult to play like that against some of these players.
We have a question here about the Iran game, and I guess when I'm thinking about teams that are more likely, I mean, look, England's gonna press as well, but they're more likely to have more of the ball, I think, than Wales and Iran will. Whereas that may be a little bit more even, or maybe shade to the U.S. in possession. How do you see the difference in sort of the matchups against teams in this World Cup and style of play? Parky, is it better for this team? And it seems like they're at their best when they're on the front foot, pressing opponents, not necessarily always with the ball. What's sort of the perfect situation for the way this team plays for you right now?
Yeah, I think that Greg will press every team, including England. Maybe as the tournament goes, if guys are tired and he has to assess that, then he backs off. But I think that he will get up and press every team. Now England's got the quality to play out of it, and so when they do play out of it, I think Weston was talking about it. They were working on it this week as far as like when the press gets beaten, right? How do you regroup, get behind the ball, get in good spots? And so against a team like England, that's going to be super important because they can break the press and will break the press here and there. And you expect to play a little bit more on the counterattack against England. And so does that affect the lineup choices versus the other two teams that hopefully, especially Wales, we should have the majority of that possession in that game.
Wales 2-1 losers yesterday to Belgium. By the way, Stephen Moore asks, full Belgium squad, Wales missing a couple first-team starters. If U.S. doesn't win today, will we be worried for the first World Cup game?
Yes. I know it's a friendly, but we all know the answer to that question. It's yes. If we lose to Japan in this game, it is going to be absolute panic mode for Twitter, for U.S. men's national team fans.
What about the team itself? Do you think Greg will have any sense of worry?
I think he's constantly worried. I mean, you're the national team coach. You have all this pressure. How can you ever feel comfortable? So that comes with the job, the expectations, the pressure. But yeah, it's probably not the biggest confidence booster if you're losing to Japan in this. And I don't want to take any credit away from Japan. Japan have some quality players.
Yeah, they do.
However,
the majority of this team is playing in Europe.
Yes,
at a good level.
However, I think we should be able to beat Japan, especially at a neutral site.
What I was going to say quick earlier was you've got 3 potential U.S. starters that might not play a lot with their club teams here in the fall, right? Yep. With Dest, Turner, and Christian. And so you've got 2 of them on the field right now. So it's interesting to see how those guys play without having played much in the season thus far. That's important for their confidence and for Greg's confidence in them leading up to the World Cup.
Are we feeling comfortable saying that Turner is not just the starter here? He's on the field, obviously, but the odds-on starter for the World Cup, given some of the club struggles and injury struggles that Zach has had, or is this just a little bit of a hiccup for Zach? If he gets back in that Middlesbrough team, it's all back on.
For me, he's like Reyna. I can't expect him to be healthy for the World Cup. He's just always injured right now, and you hate to see that because he's the most talented guy, I think, at the goalkeeper position. So if he is healthy, I still think it's his spot. But I don't think you can rely upon it at this point.
Tricks and flicks from Gio Reyna. Dude, that's that stride there. Then he's so strong. Once he gets it, he almost just invites contact because he knows he's going to like shiver you off and create more space for himself. Really, really fun to watch. What have you made so far, Charlie, of just how the way the U.S. is playing?
It hasn't looked all that clean, and it looks like they haven't played together in a long time. That's what it looks like to me. And some of these passes, not enough weight, poor decision making. It's not great, but it's the first 20 minutes. You expect the team to kind of settle in, get into a rhythm after the first 20 minutes, and then have an idea of how Japan's playing. But this, so far, I can tell you it's not encouraging watching this, because Japan have put themselves in good positions, good spots. There's a couple of times where, there's a couple of minutes ago, Sam Vines was on the wrong side of the defender of the attacker, but he took a poor touch. Now, I am naturally thinking about, what if Gareth Bale is in that position, or what if Bukayo Saka or Raheem Sterling is in that position? What does it look like? So it's natural to say, okay, if we're playing against top opponents, top players, that this scoreline could be drastically different. Although Jesus Ferreira had that golden opportunity, and you expect a striker for the U.S. men's national team to finish that chance.
We've got a couple of comments here. I was trying to save this / perhaps even ignore it, but you can't. I mean, this is the first time we've seen these jerseys in action. Miguel Nieves says, seeing the new jerseys in action, they still look plain. Nathan Maynard, even more sad about the jerseys now than I was before. Jerseys are kind of a silly thing to debate at times, but this is what fans care about. Like, this is the visual identity of the team on the field. I will say this, I've definitely seen worse. All right, those 02 jerseys are now like, they have a special place in our hearts, but I got the full story when I was at Soccer House recently about like the inner mesh that those things had, and how the players cut it all out because it was just awful to wear. You literally couldn't take the jersey off or put it back on. These don't offend me, but they don't necessarily inspire me. Charlie, you're the fashionista here. I'll let you opine.
I like the white, blue, white. I think the actual kit itself, yeah, it's.
Wait, are you saying you like red, white, and blue? Is it?
No, I like how it goes.
Oh,
white,
got you.
Blue, white in terms
the
of
socks, the shorts.
Yes.
So yes, okay.
Yes. And I'm getting some text over here saying Jesus Ferreira is short, and therefore the ball was over his head. It wasn't a time. It wasn't a opportunity that he fluffed. It was just the ball was too high, and I disagree with that, because it's about timing of your jump. So therefore, if you get your timing right, then
getting Chuck's text,
you got enough on
flamed. Is what he's saying?
No, I'm just saying it's not about the height and him being short and the ball was over his head. It's about the timing, because that was a perfectly flighted ball into that spot.
What's your favorite jersey you ever wore for the U.S., Parky? Or you, Charlie? What's the one that that's the one that you felt like is the best? The one that you think about when you think about your time with the national team?
That 2009 kit with the thin red stripes across.
Yep, the white one.
So clean, so clean.
I may or may not have had a Michael Bradley customized of that 09 kit. Was a big Aaron Veen era Michael Bradley and Mochin Gladbach era Michael Bradley guy back in the day. That's I think that might be the only one I ever actually purchased. What about you, Parky? If you had to come up with a visual identity, now we're asking you to be a designer here.
You're asking the wrong person. I've got some of my US kits, but I couldn't tell you off the top of my head like what color they are, what the design is. That's not me. I don't really care. When I'm looking at this, I agree. It's kind of boring. It is what it is, but I really don't care.
Oh,
see, that's the honesty we were looking for. It doesn't. I'm not offended. I'm not inspired. It's all good. It's a World Cup. It'll be fun no matter what. Here we go. From someone with a different perspective, Jordy Comas. Jerseys are not just about a game; they are much more. They are the costume of the game that is more than life or death. Then he has ja 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 ja, which is he's laughing about that. So obviously a little tongue in cheek there. What have we made of? I know what Charlie thinks, but like, what do you made of Aronson and Adams, and also Jesse at Leeds?
Oh, it's awesome. I mean, I'm assuming I'm like everybody else, where it's the first game I look for.
Yeah.
You know, when I get the EPL schedule each week, I'm like, oh, what time does Leeds play this week? And they're fun to watch. I mean, they are. They play. They're so open. It's a fun and attractive style to watch. And obviously our guys are having success, which helps. And as an American, you take pride in those three guys doing well, and we're rooting for them. So it's awesome to watch.
What's the midfield shape for those trying to figure that out? Is there a double pivot here? Is it single? I mean, I think defensively it looks like sometimes they flatten out a little bit.
Yeah, I think Chuck was right. I think Adams is sitting a little bit behind the other two.
Yeah, that's what it looks like to me as well.
Jeez.
But they are struggling with the press.
Oh boy.
Another giveaway from the U.S. Japan shooting offside. Opportunity. That's going to be a goal. He did look a shade offside. We have a half-hearted fist pump that he knew was coming back. You can oftentimes tell. Well, remind the fans. A lot of fist pumps in the crowd. Look, if we're doing a jersey rating, I'm going to give Japan the clear edge here. Oh, that is very close.
Ooh.
That is very close. I think in MLS that might be a goal. Just because I think the AR keeps his flag down, and then I don't know that it's clear and obvious. It is right on the edge, maybe leaning just a little bit, but it's been a rough time in possession.
I wonder how they're going to do VAR at the World Cup. Are they going to do it MLS style, or are they going to do it England style when we've got lines all over the field?
I think it's England style. I believe they have new technology, and they're reviewing this play right now, by the way, the video assistant referees. I believe they'll have, I think it's new technology where there's a chip, like a locator chip, essentially in the ball that is used to determine positioning. Yeah, so we'll see. This is a big question here. This is a longer review than you would hope if you're the U.S. Sloppy.
So is it clear and obvious? Oh, goal! It's a goal.
Oh boy,
man, yep. You're far ahead of us. I think it's offside, but I mean, I guess it's not clear and obvious. But if it's not clear and obvious, the call on the field was offside. So
yeah, that's a goal. Japan won. USA nothing. Issues in possession here. Issues with the.
You could say that again.
With the Japan press. That's got to be. This is. I think this is a pretty. That's a concern, because you better believe that Wales, England, and Iran are all scouting every second of these games as well.
Yeah, it's a concern for sure, because it's not the first one of the game, and so. Now the confidence gets tested, right? Do you continue to play out, or now do you start to play safer? It's in your head now a little bit, So it'll be interesting to see how the group responds to that.
Another giveaway here. Japan nearly create a scoring opportunity. Matt Turner out quickly, but they are when they pick that ball off the back line, they're coming straight down the throat here. I mean, it is. Yeah, this is man. We got a little bit of the anxiety and maybe a lot of it in the World Cup qualifying, but I think there was always this underlying belief that we were going to get through. I'm starting to be reminded after 4 years off about World Cup anxiety. World Cup anxiety is tough. I talked to Greg about this a little bit. Just the idea that you're going to be judged as a team on 270 minutes, essentially. With very little time to prep as a group coming in a different environment than you've played in and a different tournament you've played in. That's rough, man. It's a lot of pressure.
And this is where, like, for me, and I know we were talking about this off air earlier, Charlie, but like when times come like this, right? And you say, okay, hey, let's play in behind a little bit and cool off a little bit, leave some nerves, right? Play in behind. You've got Ferreira right now who plays in behind, but the wingers right now are not wingers that get the ball in behind, right? And so that's when somebody like Wiebe becomes really valuable. So it'll be interesting to see how he fits in. But
yes, because you can't rely on your outside backs to be wingers, right? To get in and stretch the back line and provide width. That just you just can't rely on that. And for me, yeah, this has been a concerning 30 minutes. I can tell you that. I know Musa would make a big difference in this team because De La Torre seems like he's just floating. He's floating out of the center of the park because he's going to like more of the wide areas, and he's typically going to the wide right spot behind underneath Dest, and Dest is pushing higher, and it's just not working. It's offset, unbalancing the midfield. And there's less options for the U.S. to play into, which makes it more predictable. And that's what Japan has just been preying on, the U.S. center backs trying to make the game.
You mentioned Parky guys that aren't playing at club level. Luca De La Torre is one of those guys. He has not really played this year for Celta Vigo as well. Corner kick for the U.S. Ball in, easy catch by the Japan keeper here. Abe Sinclair, what's up, man? 0% chance Wiebe, spelled Weebe, ever actually played soccer. Well, that's not true. All right. Did I quit freshman year to play baseball? I might have.
Yeah, he played in 8th grade.
I was the men's league. I was the Brooklyn men's league Chad Marshall. All right. So didn't have the same feet as Michael Parkhurst, but didn't have the same feet as Chad Marshall either. But
when we're talking about De La Torre, sorry to get you off of your career.
No. Just have to engage my friends in the comment section.
For me, one of the not surprises, because I'm not surprised about it, but I guess I was hoping that Eric Williamson was going to be back in with the group.
I was surprised he wasn't here.
Yeah, because when I think back to the summer where we had a really beat Mexico, won the 2 cups, like I forget which one it was. Maybe it was the Gold Cup final. I thought he was our best player on the field, and I think he fits in this midfield 3 as an 8 really well.
I think you're going to see him in the MLS camp that they have, because I mean the question then is, when do the Timbers, if they make the playoffs, when are they out? If they don't, he'll be there very quickly. But there will be an MLS based camp before the World Cup. But I agree, you would have liked to see him in this group, no doubt about it. We have the goal here, the highlight. If you guys want to break that one down. We have let's see if we want to play this up. I mean, this is the back end of it, but it's a tough giveaway from the U.S. It's Weston McKennie sort of with a wall pass backwards straight into the path of a Japanese attacker. All the defenders get drawn in at the top of the box, and then it's a pretty simple finish.
It's a bad giveaway, but is that Adams that overruns it? Like, you got to keep that guy going wide after the ball turns over right here. Don't let that guy cut back into the box, right? Now we're screwed at this point, right? But you keep that ball outside. He's going away from goal. Like right here, don't overrun it.
Yep. Opened up the passing lane, opened up the space.
And Dest was not going to be in that spot. He wasn't going to be there to tuck in because he's too busy flying forward. So
yeah, he was all the way up the field.
Yeah.
I mean, to go to what you guys were saying about wingers providing width, I mean, that he was thinking, okay, I need to get up. He was ahead.
Oh my God.
Every time Charlie says, "Oh my God," I'm the ball is at the feet of either Turner or the oh my God.
At the feet of Long. I can tell
or one of the
Aaron Long is having a shocker today. Absolute shocker.
That looks like a foul. Yep. Japan with a free kick opportunity, top of the box.
I'm telling you, I've been in the position of Long and Zimmerman right now, and they're thinking in their head, like, Greg wants me to continue to play out of the back, but I know that it's not on right now. Like, Japan is just eating up everything. And not only that, but the passing lanes aren't there, or the guys on my team don't want it because they know it's open. And so now they're like, what do I do, right? I want to impress Greg because I want to be on this team, but it's making me look really bad.
It's a lose-lose. Yeah. Straight up lose situation.
Yeah, That's a tough mentally. That's a really tough place to be in to have to be processing like that in that moment. And it's not like the ball's not going to come to you. Like you are going to be on the ball.
Yeah, for sure. It is a tough spot, right? And you don't have options long because everyone's coming to the ball, and so you try and force it.
Free kick coming for Japan. John Champion says about 26 yards from goal, and so we'll trust him on that. Easily dealt with by Matt Turner. Didn't even have to dive. Speed nut.
Oh boy, Parky. If you were to just end this game right now, how many players could you pick out and said they've had an average, above average at first half, or even let's say a 7 first half?
A 7. Whew. Turner's been good. He made one big save. I don't think he had a chance on the goal, so I'd say Turner.
Maybe
Aaron's,
Gio Reyna? Maybe.
Yeah, maybe Gio. Yeah. The guys up front haven't touched the ball. I mean,
nope.
Gio had that one nice, movement where he's dribbling across the field and got him behind to get the corner kick. But
oh my God,
not many, Chuck.
Boy.
Oh, I'm telling you, this is like,
yeah.
If there's ever a performance that
this is like nervous laugh time.
Oh my! If there's ever a moment, a match where you could literally now just put Twitter on fire for U.S. men's national team fans in the performance to like invoke that, this is it.
Oh, we're already there. We have comments coming
God.
in. Did we ever feel the back line was great through qualifying? So that's Speednut. Mario's won. We aren't getting out of the group stage, boys. Like there's not at the international level, especially in the time frame that we're in right now, ahead of the World Cup. There's not a lot of patience. Japan is owning us. Flashbacks to Mexico in 2019.
Honestly, for me, this is a time right now where you adjust a little.
Oh my God.
You have to adjust a little bit. Give the ball to Matt Turner and get your line all the way up to midfield and have Matt Turner kick the ball long, play for second balls, and at least try and get in their half of the field.
This is really disheartening, this 35 minutes. And I know it's a friendly, I know that, but God, just the ideas. You can't just rely on playing out of the back and keeping the ball. You have to be flexible. Like Parky said, if things aren't going well, switch up the game completely. Say, all right, let's just go into we're going to keep our outside backs tight. We're going to keep them low, and we're going to play long. We're going to play into the channels. We're going to play Jesus Ferreira, who's barely touched the ball. I mean, it's one opportunity that I'm getting texts about. Oh, he's short and it's not on him. Although we all know if P-Folk's in that position,
I'm trying to think
of
short strikers that would text Charlie right now.
It wasn't
Like,
a player.
It's height, man. It's height. That's what it is.
I'll keep it at that. It wasn't a player. so let's just leave it at that.
Okay,
but I will say that this is just
it's definitely a short person though.
Yeah, you know him. I'll keep it at that too.
Okay.
Miguel
Nieves, I think Parkhurst has a future in coaching. I like his approach. See, YouTube chat is trying to hire you right now, Parky. They think you're ready for it.
Oh man.
We've also defined quote unquote the casuals. Diego Alonso says, I guess quote the casuals, all caps, were right about Aaron Long. But a lot of people are just asking, what do you change and how do you change it? I mean, is it as simple? Parky is just saying, hey, you know what? Look, we gotta, even just from a mental perspective, we got to relieve some of this pressure on ourselves and try to apply pressure on Japan in a different way.
Yes.
Because it is predictable for Japan right now. Like they know where this ball is going and where it's coming out.
Exactly right. And I think Aaron Long's not the only guy giving balls away here. Let's be honest. McKinney gave the ball away for the goal. Like Adams has been terrible.
Had a ton of them. Yep.
Like so, stop all the hate for Aaron Long and say, hey, this is on the team right now. Like, the passing lanes aren't good, the movement's not great enough, the ideas aren't there. Like, this isn't on an individual, right? But this is a good test for the group. Like, this will happen at the World Cup at some point, right? It might not even be England, right? It could be Iran that gets on top of us for 15, 20 minutes, right? How do you come back from that? What do you do? How do you regroup? And so this is a good test, right? And they haven't passed it, no, but it's good for them to go through it.
I mean, if you're Wales or Iran right now, you're thinking we are going to press this team. Like, we're going to invite them to have the ball in just this way.
Oh, 100%.
Like that's what I would be thinking. It may not be for 90 minutes, but you're going to know that this is a tool that you can use.
Every team in the group stage is going to be watching this game and just saying, okay, let's set these traps, because they are going to try to build on the back. This is how they play. It's very predictable, and they're still sticking to that. Look, I'm like, Zimmerman and Long, and Turner should be saying, guys, I get that this was our plan. Go deep. I'm playing it into the channel. Let's try and find Jesus Ferreira's feet. Or let's play him in play it along the ground into those channels and see what he can do, because this is not working.
But I think that also goes to what you said, Parky, which is that they're also in the position of, like, ultimately you need to do what Greg is asking you to do too. Like,
no, at this point,
if you're a leader, it's a player responsibility thing, in your opinion.
Yes, it is. Because we always talk about those first couple of caps, Parky, when you're thinking about, what does the coach want me to do? And you're in your head and you're asking all these questions. And then versus when you're in the form of your life and you're playing, it's because you're so confident. You know what you're doing. You're not listening to anyone else. You're just doing you. You know how to play the game. You use intuition. You know what's right, what's wrong, and things just flow. In this game, that's when you expect Tyler Adams, Weston McKennie to be like, I know they're young and they don't have all that experience, but they know enough to say, all right, this is not working. All right, you go a little bit higher, or we're going to drop deep a little bit more. Jesus Ferreira, check and spin. I'm going to find you. Reyna, Aronson, look to maybe play a little bit higher and stay wide. Now, instead of you guys coming in all the time, let's switch it up.
Yeah, and I'm not saying, hey, kick the ball long every time. What I'm saying is, for a certain period of time, get the ball in the other half of the field and do it as a group so that you can win second balls and gain some confidence and get your attacking players on the ball in that half of the field, right? And then things will open up a little bit, get a little bit of confidence, and then the lanes open up a little bit more, and you can play out of the back. It's just not there right now because Japan is so confident that they can just push their line and get on top of you because there's nothing in behind.
How are you like looking at this kind of from a Japan perspective? What are they doing in that press? Like, what's tactically, what are you guys seeing from them?
They're letting the center backs have the ball, and then when the ball goes wide, they're pressing hard and they're together, and they've got all the lanes filled. But like I said, they're taking chances. We can't see their back line usually, like right now when Turner has the ball, we can't see their back line, but there's no threat in behind. Like, they can play one-on-one easily at the halfway line because there's no threat of that ball being played in behind them. And that's why I'm saying, like, when you switch it up a little bit, it puts that fear in defenders, right, of that through ball, that ball in behind where you don't want to get caught one-on-one. But right now that's not there. So it makes their life a little bit easier, but, they are very organized in their press, which you would expect from Japan.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm going to go try to see touches in opposing half because I'm going to guess it's wildly Japan.
Yeah, the last few minutes have been better, at least it's in their half of the field.
Yeah.
Because we're just having throw-ins. Again, look at right here. There's no one down that left flank. No one. There's no one forcing that right back to be on the touchline so he can tuck in, because Gio Reyna is so inside that there's no threat, which makes it more predictable because you can suck in your defenders and there's no space.
All right, here's an opportunity. Yeah, get it wide. Overlap. Ooh. Probably the second best moment of the match for the U.S.
Yeah, it was a good overlap from Vines.
This is much better at this point.
This is what I'm saying. Sometimes when you get the ball in the other half, right, you're able to pin them in, keep them there, right? Sometimes you just got to get there.
Yeah, I mean, also the flip side is how you're going to press them when they don't have the ball in areas to be pressed.
Mm-hmm. See, even Japan right now, you flip it around, right? Japan can't get out.
Yep.
But they do have the lead, and I think it's one of those things where, okay, now we'll drop and defend, and then we'll look to counter. So because they can't be high press this whole time either, but they're tactically they're situated in a good position. I think they've done a terrific job of giving that space to the defender, saying okay, and then closing down that next line of passes.
Jimmy Conrad tweet here: we needed this. We needed a team that consistently exploits our vulnerabilities, all caps, before the World Cup starts. So the question is, what are we going to do about it? How are we solving these problems? This is a big halftime for us. We're waiting the halftime whistle. What do you think halftime looks like in the U.S. locker room? What do you think is going through Greg's mind right now?
Yeah, there's going to be frustrated players in the locker room, for sure. And so I think Greg is, how do you manage it, right? What's the message to the team? Do you continue to play the way you're playing? Do you change up the style a little bit? I mean, I think that he had mentioned that there would probably be some halftime subs anyways, you know, regardless of performance. So I'd expect maybe some substitutes, you know, but does the style change at all? Or do you continue to play out of the back? You know, that type of thing, right? What's the messaging to the group? Like that I'm curious in.
Abe Sinclair, it is afternoon in Germany, so I don't think they need coffee in the locker room. I need more coffee. I might have to run upstairs and handle that business. Just saw a stat here. U.S. lost possession 39 times in its defensive half so far in this first half.
Yeah, call it for what it is. I mean, it's not good. Just it's that simple. And I know Greg Berhalter was talking about the press of the number 9 defensive responsibilities, and well, that means absolutely nothing in a game like this because you're giving the ball away. So the 9 hasn't really been involved. You haven't been able to see what Jesus Ferreira can even offer.
I mean, how much have the Japanese center backs / backline even had to be in possession? This is one of those fun games as a defender where you kind of stand at the midway line and wait for a predictable ball to bounce out to you.
Kubo.
Is he still at Mallorca? Where's he at now? All right, that's halftime.
No, he's not at Mallorca anymore. He's at Real Sociedad.
Okay. Well, that is that's a sweet respite, I think, of a whistle. That the last 5 minutes, 6 minutes were better.
Yeah, well, it couldn't be worse. It couldn't be too much worse. So yeah, it was better, which is a bit more promising. Glass half full, Chuck.
Yeah.
Oh gosh.
I'm just, I'm like getting flashbacks to World Cups past of just like that, that like
What,
desperate
98?
feeling
World Cup
and
98?
just desperate feelings inside. Yeah, of like, oh God, please let this come off. Like, this isn't great, but it can change, right? It can get better.
I mean, it can't get worse, really. So.
All right. So what do you do at halftime if you're Greg as far as personnel? Do you make changes? Do you stick with what you've got? What guys would you think about bringing in? Is this a time to switch it up, or is this a time to look at what you would basically be considering, like, the team that's out there has to be your first choice team in this situation, really, like 2 games out of the World Cup, I would think. Do you try to give those guys an opportunity to get a little bit of positivity going, to give them a chance to, sort of play through it the way they will have to at a World Cup, or do you switch things up?
I think ideally for me, I'd want to keep this group together and see how they do the first 10, 15 minutes out of the halftime talk. Like I said earlier, Greg may have already had the idea that, predetermined that he's going to make substitutions. For me, I'd love to see what does injecting some pace into the group do. Right. So if you bring in Jordan Morris and put him on a wing, right, does that help things? Right. Just to know, like, okay, when we play against a team like this, right, what's going to be more helpful? Do you bring in a different striker and see how Josh Sargent does or Pepe does, right, in that role? So I would expect a few changes, right? Maybe bring in Kellen Acosta to play in the midfield and inject a little bit more life in there.
Chewy, we're lucky it's not 3-0 for Japan. Mario's, yes, please more coffee. I must be dreaming right now. Thank you for keeping it real. Is another one here. Let's see what YouTube is. Ryan McCart says he's thanking Japan. It's a wake-up call for us. G2 Wavy. See, Parky gets it. We need some pace on the field. There's just not a ton of pacey, like, in-behind wingers within the squad. Like, what, you have Morris and you have Weah, and that's really kind of it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, you could throw Areola into that same bucket with Jordan Morris.
Pulisic would be a guy who can be that guy. I think has shown that he can.
No Musa, no Weah. You can see kind of how important they are to the team, just because of what they are able to offer. Luca Della Torre, he looked a little rusty too because he hasn't been playing that much side to side, but he's good in possession. He can make good movements. But what Yunus Musa does, not only can he win the ball and anticipate those second balls, but we don't have a midfielder who can dribble players in the midfield. Kind of like I always go back to Darlington Nagbe because they have similar movements, but you can't teach that, you can't coach that, you can't replicate that.
Yep.
That is one player that is so important to this team, and I can't say it over. I'll say it over and over again. He is so important to this midfield trio. That Musa, McKennie, Adams only works. That midfield trio only works with Musa because he's so different than those two.
Yep, I agree.
I think we also. It just has to be said, like, maybe people out there don't know this Japan team, but this is a team full of, like, Bundesliga, Premier League, like, this is a team full of top 5 league starters.
Do we honestly think Ferreira
even
was
missing
too
Minamoto
short for that cross? Do we honestly think that?
No.
What are we seeing? Too short? He got his whole head on it.
It was one of the few times that the U.S. got the ball on one side, was able to get it over to the other side, right? Release an outside back. We had that and
it was only to Dest. We didn't get much from Sam Vines on the left side.
He had the one moment late on. Yeah,
right.
I mean, it's hard for those guys to get high though. If you're playing
it's
out
a
of the back and
catch-22,
losing the ball,
right?
Like, how do
it's
you
a catch-22 for outside backs, for sure. right? Because Dest gets caught way up on the goal because, you know, if he's not way up, right, he can't be part of the offensive movements, can't get in behind, right? But Vines is looking at that like, shoot, we can't keep the ball, so maybe I should stay a little further back so I'm not out of position when we do lose it, right? You know, so it's difficult.
But it's like a seesaw, right? And I think that when the U.S. are in possession on the left side, Dest should not be high. He should be tucked in, which he's not because he's so focused on staying high and wide. I think he stays, and then as it's about to swing back, that's when he can push. And then it's kind of like this, both outside backs being so high and wide because Reyna and Aronson are inside.
Yeah, it depends on the personnel and how Greg wants to play, right? Because usually, yes, that's what you want from your opposite outside back, right? Is to tuck in, you know, when the other ball's on the other side of the field, right? But if you play with 2 6s, right? Say you had Acosta in there next to Adams, right? Then you can rely on those 6s to cover for Dest, right? And you say, okay, if you want Dest to provide the width because you know Aronson, if he's on that side, is tucked way in, but you want to have width on the other side in case the ball gets to the other side, like, then you've got that opportunity to do that, knowing that, okay, you've got the 2 center backs plus the 2 6s. And that's your cover.
100%. And Adams cannot do it for both.
No.
They're relying on him. And Luca Del Torre doesn't have the pace. He can't cover ground like that.
Correct.
Doesn't have that. And we saw Weston McKennie, when he's playing in an advanced role, that's not his game. He's not a 10. I'm sick of seeing him that high. He's more of a 6, like Tyler Adams. He doesn't do everything that Tyler Adams does, but he is better when he is deeper and then gets involved in the attack when the ball's in the attacking half already. He can't start high and check into the ball. That's not his game. You see how many passes he gave away to Japan, just poor giveaways. That's not his game. I mean, he's not relied on to make the game. He's picks up second balls. He's good in the air, tough tackler, but arriving late in the attacking half. That is when you want him involved. Otherwise, allow him to just break up plays into passing lanes. That's where he's at his best. You're not relying on him to make the game. So again, that's why Yunus Musa is so important, because Adams and McKennie, you win the ball back, you tough tackle, you're good defensively, you focus on your defensive responsibilities. Allow Yunus Musa to find those pockets and those gaps and then dribble out of pressure because he can glide by people. And next thing you know, he's breaking into the attacking third and he's forcing center backs to have to leave the striker or leave that space. And that's where the 9 can make a run and get open. And then your outside wingers are involved. So when you don't have that, it shows. There's a lack of creativity in the attacking third, and that's why I'm getting so frustrated watching this game.
So do you think, Chuck, that we should play 2 6s next to each other, Weston in front of them, but 100%. Not Weston as a 10, Weston as an 8, with then one of the wingers tucking in to become a 10, and then you push one of your outside backs because you have 2 6s?
Yes. I think with this formation, you play 2 6s almost. I go back to the Nations League final.
He had been playing more like that recently.
Yeah. I go back to the Nations League final where you played, I think it was Acosta and Adams, or Acosta and McKennie were your 2 6s, and you protected the back 4. That was, we're locking it down, and then we'll rely on Christian, we'll rely on Reyna to really create opportunities off the dribble, combining, and they found space. They found opportunities playing in that way. In that transition game, they were lethal at times. We're not seeing that at all. There is no transition so far in this first half because we are so spread out. There is no cohesion right now, and I think that's what's been so frustrating is because we weren't able to show how good we are on the ball just for maybe a minute here, a minute there. You're like, okay, we're gaining it, but then we lose it. And it was just too sloppy. And when you have so many players spread out, it was almost like we didn't have an identity in that first half, which is a concern.
Here is the first half touch map for the U.S. You can see on screen right here.
And the left side is the defensive side for people who are watching.
Yeah, just in case that wasn't abundantly clear to you. Yes, the left side is the. I would like to have a giveaways map, like a turnover map as well. That would be nice. But yeah, it's you've got there's not much going on.
I'm getting
in the
text,
Japanese half.
I'm getting text from my mom, and she's going, jet
From
lag.
your mom, wow.
My mom goes,
Isn't she on the West Coast? Isn't she in
Yeah.
San Diego, Charlie? Like,
Yeah, she goes, jet
she's like,
lag.
I woke up
baby."
for this.
Jet lag.
Yeah. She said jet lag. Oh man.
We
Man,
better
moms are
we
the-
better get
moms
out
are
to
the best.
Qatar like 3 weeks early.
Moms are the best. They're always looking for that reason. They're like, honey, it's the jet lag. All right, that's what it is. Like, don't worry, it's not you.
All
It's
right,
not you.
we're getting some subs. Morris, Sargent,
Looks like
Cannon,
Reggie,
McKenzie.
yeah, Sergeant, yeah. Looks like 4 changes for the U.S. here. I'm with you, Charlie. I think the like, I don't even know how to describe it. Like the random patches of color. It looks like somebody hit you with a water balloon of dye. Warm up top is better than the other ones.
I'm feeling it. That's all I'm saying.
What do you think backline wise? I think Tim Ream and John Brooks, Park here, guys that people have just screamed about for a long time now, and just clearly sort of don't fit into how Greg sees the position or how sees them. What do you think about those two and their lack of involvement with the national team?
Yeah, at this point, I'm a little bit more surprised about Tim Ream. I mean, I think the book is closed on John Brooks for.
Oh yeah.
For Greg's
That's
time.
Put in the vault. Yeah,
for sure. So I don't even regard him anymore. I mean, I was surprised a little bit in the beginning that maybe he didn't get a second chance, but then, he for me, when he was at his best, he's got the highest ceiling. Like he can be our best center back. But I've also seen games where he's got a low floor. Like his bad games, they are brutally bad. And so there's that wide range of consistency. But so for that reason, I guess I was a little bit surprised, especially having a really young team, that he maybe didn't get a second chance earlier. But now, I mean, we're past him. He's not part of the group. Ream, I think, fits the system pretty well. And he's doing, starting week in and week out from Premier League teams. So a bit surprised that he wasn't involved, honestly.
We've got just reading stumbled into Japan Twitter here. Some people sort of viewing what U.S. Twitter is saying about our performance and saying that this is not even close to the best that the Samurai Blue can do. That actually they're frustrated a little bit about the lack of a cutting edge in the final third, and that this sort of like organization and tactical togetherness is just the expectation, and that they think there's more to this team than what they're showing even now. So that's there's some
I don't disagree, right? I mean, we look at the bad turnovers that we had. They could have easily scored 2. If we were turning Japan over and had those chances, we'd say, "Oh my God, we're going to come back to rue those missed chances," right? Mm-hmm. The second half is going to be different. They're going to adjust, right? And so I get that.
And they have Spain and Germany in their group, along with Costa Rica. It's not going to be easy for the Samurai Blue. So you get those opportunities, especially given how poor the U.S. were in that first half. If you're not finishing, forget it.
Big opportunity for McKenzie, by the way. I was interested to see which center back was coming in at halftime. So he's in Greg's mind, he's number 3 on the pecking order right now. And so this is a big opportunity for him.
And you talk about a center back who is in form right now and having to go through the gutter, all the BS, you know it so well, Parky, of being in Europe, getting a coach who buys you, or a sporting director, you don't play for a full year. You get one opportunity, you make a mistake, you're out, and you got to fight, wait a whole year, lose opportunities with the national team, not get called up. You're kind of like, what am I doing here? Should I stay here? Should I go up?
Yep.
Finally, you're the starting center back, and your team's going on an incredible run. He's the highest rated center back right now in Belgium. He's ready. And so he's got to take this opportunity.
Definitely. I'm excited for him. He's a Wake Forest kid, so of course I love him.
I'm down for the ACC. So okay.
I was going to say Charlie's never made it about Boston College ever in his life. It's never been about. You would think these, you'd think you work around professional soccer players. It's like, well, you always go
I
back
can't
to that
believe
college
Parky
team,
didn't
man.
look at BC. It just boggles my mind that Parky didn't go to Boston College, being a New England kid.
It would have helped if they had shown interest, Charlie. You know.
I blame Eddie Kelly for that.
No, seriously though, big opportunity for Mark, and I'm excited for him. Hopefully he can do well here. It's interesting to see how the style of play is for the group, if they stick to what they were doing or they change it up a little bit.
Doyle just tweeted out main first half problem. I mean, there are a number. It just depends on your perspective. If you outnumber the opponents 3-2 in central midfield and you're losing every second ball, there's an intensity issue. Did you guys feel like there was an intensity issue here?
No,
I
disagree. I strongly disagree with that take. Strongly. This was not an intensity issue. This was sloppy in possession issue, bad decision making issue, poor touches issue, not an intensity issue. This was just quality was not good enough.
That's why I asked. Had to get your unvarnished take, Charlie.
Well, you did. I
got it.
Got me fired up.
I can always rely on you. That's why we have a segment on MLS After Dark called "That's Whack," and we just we just go through what we think is whack.
Don't give me that intensity issue. No, come on. It's the first half of a friendly, but and you only got one more before World Cup. This is not an intensity issue. This is just a miscommunication issue and poor quality, just not good enough.
Did you just see that play, by the way? Small little thing, right? Turner just pushed the team up and they just kicked it long. A minute into the second half.
Yep.
Ball, yep. What you mentioned McKenzie's opportunity. He watched the first half. He knows what's going on. He can see what's probably going to be coming his way. They're not necessarily high pressing. They want the U.S. to move into strategic spots. As you guys said, was sort of like a trap.
Yeah, so here
they'll
they
wait
go.
for their opportunity. Then you got to break it. Maybe the U.S.
Oh, this is much better. Much better already.
But like you said, Chuck, we just broke that press because Adams dribbled by a guy. Dribbled 25 yards, right? That's what you miss with Musa not being in the lineup.
What do you guys think of the opportunity for Sargent? Interesting that, understandable given his form over Pepe, but interesting that this is sort of the pre-planned sub for Greg Sargent in.
Yeah, I'm not surprised, right? I think that I was a bit surprised Pepe was involved. Sargent's done really well moving a striker with his club team. So, and Greg's had really positive things to say about him. I'm not surprised it's a big opportunity for him. I don't know if Ferreira, it was a tough half, right? He had one chance. And other than that, barely saw the ball. So he didn't help himself. I don't know if he really hurt himself, but either way, it's still a good opportunity for Sargent.
There's that play that Tyler Adams right there, right back's high, cannon's high. He comes back to break up that play. And that's just when Tyler Adams is at his best, anticipating, covering for that right back when Cannon's out of position. And you were in that, you had defensive cover.
For sure. It gives you confidence as an outside back, right? To get forward when you've got Adams covering for you like that.
Oh boy.
Interesting moment to dummy.
Yeah. Then McKinney loses the ball.
49:08 on our clocks. If you're watching along with us, thank you for being here. It's not so early anymore. Had Joey Comas ask who are the top three right now. You've got Aronson on the left, Jordan Morris on the right, and then Josh Sargent up top.
For me, when they're in possession in the defensive half, I'm like, this is pointless possession. This is not the possession I want to see. But now this is good.
Yeah, much better.
You can even just see that, like, Jordan Morris's willingness to just run directly in a direct way to draw defenders opens up lanes for them to play underneath him. And that really wasn't happening in the first half. Hit it, Luca.
It's encouraging first 5 minutes, right? The response was important because, you know, in the World Cup, you're going to have a bad half, right? It's against some team, you're probably going to have, hopefully not a whole half, right? But 15, 20 minutes. And learning how to respond from that it's make or break.
Who is the most irreplaceable player on the U.S.?
I'm going to go with Tyler Adams. Even though he hasn't had the best of games today, I think just what they ask of him in his role, no one else can really do that to his ability.
Yeah, the two names that I thought of were Adams and Musa as well. Just because, yeah, like Charlie said, there's no like for like replacement. All right, they're not the most talented guy. Well, Musa might be, but you know, the wingers are super talented, right? But we've got very good options at wing.
We got Doyle. Doyle's out here tweeting through it as he always does. Appreciate that from him. I would wonder, Charlie, where you stand right now, and I know it's early. Sargent just got back into it. Obviously, played big minutes early on, and this team sort of having success, and then got out of form himself and was out of the team. Do you still expect Ferreira to be the game one starter? Would you?
No, I don't. In terms of, it's not a guarantee, because the first half performance from him was, I mean, you could say that about many players, but it wasn't convincing at all. And he still has to convince. There's no way he's a penned in, locked in starter at the moment. I mean, I know Greg sees him as the number one option at the moment, but today's performance did not help him at all. Mark McKenzie already has made a difference in his presence, his confidence on the ball, and just that pass right there. That's what you want to see from your center backs. If you're tasked with passing the ball, it's breaking lines and being, higher up the field. So you're not sitting in your 18-yard box trying to pass through the lines because you pick it off. They're right in on goal. This is get that line higher, and you can see the possession's been better. Everything's been better. Now Japan's sitting in their half, and you're dictating the game. So much better.
A lot of people yelling about that Ito tackle on Aronson into the back of his calf with the studs.
Yeah, that was
a red card. I mean, we kind of like glossed over that as it happened.
In MLS, that's a red card, no doubt.
Yeah, VAR is at least taking a look. Did he even get a yellow for it?
Look at this, Sargent in space. We're seeing playing into the channel.
Yeah, a nice ping ball there from McKenzie.
Repeat that for me, Wiebe. I didn't hear you.
I don't believe you. You have your
Okay.
ears. Your ears are just fine, Charlie.
No, I didn't hear you.
Nice pinged ball into the channel from McKenzie.
Bye. Okay.
What have we seen? I mean, Aronson got cleated, no doubt there. What have we seen from him in this game?
Not a whole
Like
lot.
when you're trying to, it feels like when you're trying to build out like this, that's not where he's at his best. Like he feels like a guy that's going to be more at his best when you sort of flip those roles and the U.S. is able to be off the ball and pressing and super direct once they win it.
Yeah, I agree. You know, he's always got energy, right? He's always willing to run and do the dirty work. But
that's what they rely on him at Juve. Just do the dirty work. Parky, you were pretty talkative as a center back, weren't you? Typically communicating to everybody, because I just remember you always had space. You always found the space, and when your team was in possession, it seemed like you knew exactly where other players were supposed to be and kind of the direction that, you know, where you guys wanted to get the ball.
Yeah, I mean, you know, that was my strength, you know, seeing passing lanes and telling guys where to go and seeing how defenses were lining up and that type of thing. And, you know, it's easier for me to see it than sometimes it's beautiful. Switch and play, open space.
Wow.
All right, corner kick. Yeah, I mean, the guys in the back, right? That's their responsibility. Some of it is to communicate with guys, right? They can see things like, hey, move this way, open up this way, move here so I can play this pass to this other guy, right? Drag defenders around. It's all about moving. It's like a game of chess, you know, you're moving guys around to open up different things.
Corner kick US. McKinney, Zimmerman, Sargent, probably your best targets. Zimmerman goes near post, ball's back post, easy catch.
Oh, what a distribution.
Oh, yeah. Bing. Yeah, that's decent. Kubo's eye.
Yeah.
Just flip it, take it down, flip it over, keep possession. That's not bad at all. Take that. Those are those moments that when you watch games with non-soccer fans, you're trying to explain to non-soccer fans skill and like games within the games, and just like those things don't always connect. But that was unbelievable.
Yeah, and typically I get so frustrated when a goalie does that too. Like their eyes light up, thinking like,
come out quick, yeah.
I'm gonna ping this ball exactly where I want to, and then as a defender, you're like, you just defended, you're a little bit tired, right? And your goalkeeper's just kicking the ball, and usually it's going straight to the other team, and you're just like, I'm still in my box. Like, let me get out of it, please. But obviously, it works out sometimes.
Do you think not starting matters for Matt Turner, and how much? Speaking of goalkeepers, I mean, he's going to get starts, but he's not going to be an every game starter. Like, is there game rhythm that just can't be replicated, or can that be overcome?
That's a tough question, and I think some players are different than others. I think that there's some players that need the game rhythm. They get a little bit rusty, but I also think that when you're at a level like Arsenal, even though you might not play in a game, you're getting very good training, right? You're getting you're getting shot at by some of the best players in the world in trainings and shooting drills and small-sided games and, scrimmages here and there, right? So it's not like you're not doing anything. So I think he can overcome it. But that's why, like I said earlier, that these types of games are important for guys like him and Dest and even Pulisic. And that's why missing out on him is a little bit big, right? Because you don't get to see how can they do when they're not playing.
Charlie, MLS After Dark, Mario says, MLS After Dark is where we get the swearing. We go under a little more under the radar.
Yes.
On a Sunday night. Look at Tori with a yellow card.
Gotta love MLS After Dark.
Yeah. Let it all come out. Yeah, this is encouraging, the first 15 minutes here of the second half. I think maybe where it might be a little frustrating for me, and I'd be curious what you guys think about this. And you kind of said it, Charlie, in the sense the players got to take some ownership there. It's like, you really want to see some of those adjustments come in the first half. Because to go back to the World Cup analogy, I mean, it's 270 minutes. You really can't afford to have 45 that are very, very bad. Like, it just in that equation, that's a really, 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 you're putting yourself in a lot of danger of not getting through by doing that.
Turner and Tomiyasu.
Any nice little
hilarious.
smiles between those two? Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's where I hope somebody like Zimmerman learns from the first half, right? Where you have to say, okay, I don't really care I don't care what the game plan was. I don't care what Greg's barking at me on the sideline. I'm on the field right now. I can see what's best for this team. We need to push the team up, get the ball in the other half, at least for a little period of time, and see if that can change things. And it falls on somebody like him or Adams to do that for the group and make sure they're doing it together and not just pinging a long ball to a striker that's by himself.
Looks like Tillman and Cardoso preparing to come on for the U.S. right now.
Yeah, I think
a lot of rotation.
I think De La Torre is just struggles to cover ground defensively. You know what you get from him when you have possession, when you're in the attack, but you could just tell he just doesn't have it defensively in terms of covering the pitch, because there's that long ball floated from the keeper. He just didn't have enough to get out to Tomiyasu, who played that ball in behind for Ito. So it'll be interesting to see what Cardoso brings into the midfield, because I think he would be coming in for De La Torre, especially that he picked up a yellow.
What, Tillman probably in for Weston?
Yes.
Tillman is an interesting one. To go back to the Williamson side of like a guy that doesn't have as much time with the team, doesn't have as much time as a pro. I know he's had some nice moments for Rangers, but doesn't have a ton of first team experience.
Yeah, his inclusion in this camp was telling. I was a bit surprised, but so a huge opportunity for him to show how he can make an impact here. Right, because this would be, if he makes the World Cup team, this would be his role, right? The team's not playing, great, second half sub, make things happen.
You can see how Japan sets up with the 6 kind of waiting for the U.S. to play to the outside winger, and then they just swarm you. And I feel like we haven't been able to think quick enough about what happens, what are the options, 1, 2, 3, instead of getting it and then thinking and not being proactive. So that's why Japan absolutely crushed us in the first half. It's been a lot better in the second half. But that's one area where we have to get better.
Totally.
I think another area disappointing for me so far, and obviously this goes to game state and where the U.S. has the ball, but with Zimmerman, with McKinney, like we've seen in games against Mexico, against high-level opponents, like set pieces are one of our best avenues to score, and we've had almost no set piece opportunities, and when we've had them, the service has been into the goalkeeper's hands. Like they hired a set piece coach. Like if you don't earn set pieces, that's a moot point. Ooh, tough moment here.
Oh my
McKenzie under pressure, giveaway. We got a 1v1, cut inside, shot. Good save, Matt Turner.
Great save.
But another giveaway in a bad spot for the U.S. Turner bailing him out once again. Right now, Turner the man of the match, I think, pretty clearly for the U.S.
What a save! What a
really
save!
good save. Woo! He was saying he thought he got better.
Fantastic.
He was saying he thought he got better at Arsenal, that he's reaching another level. Shot stopping has never been a weakness for him, but it seems like it's only growing. That was pretty fingertip stuff. But tough to see Cannon get beat that way too.
Yeah, that's a tough ask right there in the corner of the box, 1-on-1 with no help.
Yep.
And it's just McKenzie in that position trying to play out of that, surrounded by two players. Again, I get the whole mission to keep the ball, but play that down the line. Don't you kick it. You either kick it down the line and it's in the channel and someone gets it, or it comes off the player and you got to throw in instead of trying to be creative in that area of the field. Just it's basically it's a lose-lose. So just play it down the line and at least you can move the lines up.
For sure. And with the one-on-one situation, I always try to, and I communicate this with my goalie, right? If I get into that situation, expect as the goalie to cover the back post, right? I'm in a one-on-one situation. I might not get a block, but my number one job is don't let him shoot near post, right? If I'm going to have him shoot, right, make sure that I'm cutting off the near post, right? So that means don't let him go through your legs and don't let him cut to his left and shoot near post, right? And otherwise, like, hey, you got to do your best to cover the back post. And yes, will the striker sometimes stick it in the upper corner and you can't get it? Yeah. But other times like that, maybe it gives Matt Turner that small amount of like, okay, I'm going to lean to the back post because I'm hoping that my defender covers the near post.
If you're wondering what the lineup is for the U.S. right now, we're going to throw that back up for you in a second. You can see up in the right-hand corner, Japan 1, USA nothing, 68th minute. It's been better in the second half. First half was a emotional experience for all of us that would like the U.S. to do well at the World Cup. Sargent up top, Morris and Aronson. I believe those are actually swapped. It's been Aronson on the left and Morris on the right. De La Torre, Tillman, Cardoso, Vines, McKenzie, Zimmerman, Cannon, and then Turner. Curious to see a guy like Cardoso. Honestly, curious to see him here. Ooh, chance for Tillman there.
Yeah,
two chances ish. Chance in a third, maybe. Really.
that looked like he just came off the bench. That's what that looked like.
Yeah. That looked like me at the skills challenge at the All-Star game 2 years ago.
Facts.
Glancing contact and whiffs.
And Josh Sargent picks it up in a good spot, but again, his strength is not dribbling, right? So he's got to have more support, and he's got to get it off his feet quicker. But more involvement from Sargent in this so far in this second half than all of what Jesus Ferreira was able to do in the first half. Obviously, he didn't have much support, and the team didn't have possession, so it was a difficult half for Ferreira in general.
Hard to blame him for that necessarily, but
oh,
poor Reggie, dude.
That's the same thing. Oh, he does really well there.
Yeah, poor Reggie. I'm getting that position, and I was like, well, here we go again. He had a pretty good idea what was coming that time. Good block. Really nice block.
Very nice. But see, Turner was already cheating that way.
Oh, yeah.
I get what Japan fans are thinking. Like, shoot, if I had these opportunities, if the U.S. was getting these opportunities, you think, God, we got to get a second goal here. Like, we're having some chances here. We should be doing better.
Where's the chance creation going to come from for the U.S. right now in the way that this lineup is set up and the way they're playing? I don't think we have a shot on goal. I certainly don't remember one.
Yeah, I think you have to use Jordan's pace and behind.
Yeah. God.
You're right what you said earlier about set pieces, right? It's always been one of our strengths, and it's been terrible today.
And we just haven't even been in positions to be fouled in dangerous positions, really, let alone to earn a corner kick, let alone to provide service.
Let alone.
Yeah, there's a lot of let alone on that side. On many. Oh boy. That's not great. Is there? I mean, there's going to be a lot of storylines coming out of this game. I think in some ways, Christian Pulisic being gone is going to be overshadowed by the poor performance in the first half and some of the red flags that's going to bring up. I'm not necessarily asking how does Christian change this, because I'm not sure how much he changes some of the issues that we've seen so far. We'll wait a second here. Good recovery by Cannon. It's a long touch by the Japanese attacker. I don't know. In some ways, I'm like, I was thinking this with EPB2 when he didn't come on. In some ways, not saying it's good not to play, but it's good not to be exposed sometimes when you're on that bubble, not that Christian is.
There was definitely some times where I was on the bench and we're getting pummeled, and I'm thinking, oh God, thank goodness I'm not in there right now. You're not thinking always like, oh God, I wish I was in there. I could be making a huge difference,
Yeah. I mean, that's what I was thinking when McKenzie came in. I was like, well, it's a time to potentially earn something and to prove something, but fortunate foul for Aronson there. Another giveaway.
And another good ball by Turner, whether he meant it or not.
We're gonna go winners and losers. So after this one, we can start thinking about that as far as players. We have about 15 minutes to go. So who did well for themselves? Who maybe had a setback? We'll do some big takeaways. Anything you want in the chat, let us know. We will try to cover in 10, 15 minutes at the end. Yeah. I don't know. I don't even think they've really used Morris's pace even. Yeah, he's had a couple moments where like off the ball runs created space, but there's one over the top.
And then they pick up the second ball.
Yep.
Right?
Exactly.
So who are locked in starters right now? Like let's try to build out what the like they are starting. I'd say Turner.
Matt Turner start.
Turner, Zimmerman.
Yeah, he's the captain. Even though he wasn't great in this game, he's going to start. He's for sure locked in as a starter.
Yeah.
So Turner, Zimmerman,
Jedi.
Anthony Robinson. I'd say Yunus Musa for sure.
I think
Adams.
I think the middle three is locked.
Yeah, locked. McKennie, Adams, Musa is locked.
Mm-hmm. And
that's Musa probably more in that double pivot with Adams. I think. And then McKennie, ooh, another save from Turner. Jeez.
Whoa, wow. Great save.
And then up top, Pulisic.
He's a lock for me, he's the only lock of the front three if he's healthy.
Agreed.
So then you're talking about right now, we're saying that there would be 3 spots open, 2 in the attacking 3, 1 at center back. Now, the other flip side is injuries, because among this group right now, Jedi, Musa, and Pulisic are all in varying degrees of injury. And Pulisic, obviously, the least of the 3, given that he's in camp, would have played if it was a...
Yeah, it's probably unrealistic to expect that, there will be no injuries to anyone leading into the World Cup. Obviously, fingers crossed, you hope that, you wish that, right? But some things will select themselves.
Oh, God.
By the way, it was kind of telling that Cannon came in instead of Yedlin.
Yeah.
I mean, for me, I don't think you keep both of them on the World Cup team, right? You don't bring 3 right backs to the World Cup.
Tell him, Wiebe.
You're speaking the truth to Charlie here. It's like one of his...
God.
Can't be having these 3 right backs. Like,
you can't waste a roster spot on 3 right backs.
No.
No.
Yeah, I mean, it is a little bit. I mean, this is sort of Cannon's value, right? Is they'll almost go to like 3 in possession and build out. Yeah.
All right, that's why he was brought in. Not initially, he was brought in as a fill-in. Him trying to do a little too much because he's trying to impress, and that can work against you, like in that situation there.
Good defending from McKenzie again.
Yes. Outside of that one mistake from McKenzie trying to keep the ball and keep possession and a terrible spot in the field, he's been solid. He's been absolutely solid.
So we got let's see. We've got some winners here. A lot of the winners are guys that are not currently in the team. We've got PFOC and Chris Richards as winners. In absentia, so that's always fun. Winners.
PFOC's the biggest winner here today.
He's tall. He's tall. He can reach that one. That's funny.
Good ball.
Here's a question that I think is an interesting one I've been thinking about a lot. And, obviously Greg's not going to give anything away on it because it may not be his choice either way. Does Greg leave after the World Cup? And if so, who or what type of manager would replace him? Let's just imagine that Greg is leaving. I think that I personally think he misses the everyday club managing life. And I think it's hard to ask any international manager to take on 2 cycles, let alone this next cycle for the U.S. It's going to be much, much different than this previous one with no World Cup qualifying. Let's just say Greg is moving on. Hypothetical. What's the type of manager that fits with this group?
Roberto Martinez. I'll say it a million times.
You think so?
Yes, taking a young generation, golden generation of Belgium and making them what they are today, and him being just the professor in terms of tactics and technique and getting the most out of his players. If you're gonna go with someone, he's very familiar with the U.S. setup. Just in terms of, I remember watching him break down the 2010 World Cup. He's the guy. Oh,
Aronson shot, no, just wide.
Big chance.
Cardoso breaking it up. Good play.
Daniel Schmidt right now is the goalkeeper for Japan, Illinois born.
No kidding.
Mm-hmm.
You don't say.
Mm-hmm. Now he moved back to Japan at the age of 2. So, but
Wow, they've got a lot of tactical little toys down there on the bench.
wow, that ball stayed in.
Yeah, how's that?
That had some English.
What's Jordan Morris doing defending on top of our box right now when it's the 82nd minute, we're losing 1-0? There you go. Get back up there.
Sam Vines at left back. They're talking about it on ESPN Plus. What was this game? What are the memories right now for you guys from him in this game?
I don't think he's had a terrible game. It's been a tough ask. He's been put in some bad spots, some tough spots. Like even there, right there, he's behind his guy, but he's trying to get into the attack to try and help with some width because he knows the winger on his side of the field likes to tuck in. So he's trying to get forward and provide some width. But then if the ball gets turned over, he's in a really bad spot. So it's tough for him. I think that he's in one-on-one defending. I think he's been pretty good. So I'd give him another chance. If I think that he's my second best option behind Jedi, which I think he is, I'd give him another 45 in the next game. I don't think he's lost it. Didn't do quite enough to say, okay, yes, it's Sam Vines as our backup. But also I think some of that was just the performance of the team.
Do you give him another shot starting, or do you go Joe Scally?
No, I give him another start. I give him another shot starting. Because obviously Greg thinks that he's the best option to back up Jedi, right? And so I'd give him another 45, and then I'd give Scally the second 45, or maybe play Scally at right back. I don't know.
Yeah, Scally isn't a natural left back, so
No.
It's almost a moot point to play him on the left.
if you don't have Pulisic or Weah, how effective can Ferreira be up top? It's just sort because he's like at his best, sort of dropping in sometimes and creating for that guy that wants to get in behind a little bit, and then either following that or being a partner to that.
Mm-hmm.
And if you don't have that, and it's just him, that's tough. Because he's not the guy that you.
He's not the island.
So you just don't. He's not the guy that you just go whip balls into.
And he's not the striker to play on an island. I mean, there's not too many that can play on an island, but he is certainly not one who can be effective when your team does not have the ball.
He needs a Wilson. He needs a compatriot there.
A false nine works best when you've got a lot of possession, right? And that's what the U.S. expects. But when it doesn't work out like the first half, it becomes obsolete almost. So then, Charlie, do you base some of the personnel decisions off the opponent, or do you say, "Hey, this is my best 11 with how I want to play"?
I look back to our time when we were playing and involved in the national team. We weren't changing the 11, the players. We were maybe changing the tactics and the ideas on the game and the principles based on who we're playing, but we weren't changing players. We weren't changing who was on the pitch. And I think that's the problem here is we're thinking so much about, okay, against Wales, we play this team. Against England, we're going to switch here. We're going to play with this guy and this. Play your best 11 players and then change your tactics depending on who you play against. And the team should be able to adjust. I think there's just too many questions at this point, at this stage before a World Cup.
He looks okay.
What's up?
Oh, Zimmerman went down there for a second. I think he's holding his ankle.
That was really good from Zimmerman.
He is holding his ankle, and there was no contact. You think he's okay, but yeah. This field is a tad soft.
Yeah, sure is. Just missed it.
All right, we'll stick around for 10 or 15 minutes afterwards, folks. We're going to hit sort of our big takeaways from this match. Winners and losers, whether they were here or not, or played. And then look ahead to Saudi Arabia, what we need to see and what this all might mean for the World Cup. This has been one of those, watching your national team can sometimes be exhilarating. And other times it can gnaw at your soul a little bit.
Oh my God.
Speaking of things gnawing at your soul. That's 2-0 Japan.
Oh God.
Mitoma with a very nice goal. He ran. How many guys did he run through right there? Let's see the replay. Yeah.
But this is Canada the whole time. It's back up. Look at everyone just sitting.
Walked away.
Where's the defending?
Yeah, when he cuts inside.
Turner has no chance at that. This is not a goalkeeper error.
Mm-hmm.
No.
This is a defending error. Because he bent that around Zimmerman. I mean, that was completely outside the frame of the goal. It's a fantastic goal. I don't want to take anything away. But the defending was atrocious. Absolutely atrocious. Defending all the way to your penalty spot? Oh, God. And this is Japan. Again, no disrespect to Japan, but this is not England. This is not France or Argentina or Brazil. God.
Yeah, we've spent a lot of time playing. This is not "quote unquote" a competitive game, but I think it would be naive to not look at it as something much closer than a normal friendly, given the place both teams are in and preparing for the World Cup. Is this game putting us in our place a little bit?
Definitely. This is a good team, Japan, and with a style of play that obviously has given us a lot of trouble. Look, they're still pressing. It's the 90th minute. They're still right up on Zimmerman. Now they're going to drop off a bit. But yeah, it's been not great, right? You'd want to see a little bit more than this, obviously. But even if it was 2-0 and you gave up, a couple transition goals, like, okay, let's fix a few things, but we saw some things, we just weren't sharp enough, right? That wasn't necessarily the case today, right? 0 shots on goal. So that's pretty telling. Cannon's had a tough ask of him. He's been in a lot of one-on-one, but that was not good.
Goal scorer plays in Belgium on loan from Brighton and Hove. I mean, that goes to sort of what I was saying earlier, is it's easy when you don't, there's a final whistle right at 90 minutes, when you don't know a team, to sort of say, oh, and the U.S. this is our most talented team of all time. U.S. has a talent advantage. I'm not sure that's true in a game like this. Just because we don't know players doesn't mean intimately as ours, doesn't mean that much. A lot of these guys at big clubs, high leverage situations. All right, we're going to try to pick this apart. Let us know what you want to talk about in the live stream here. Somehow Seattle fans have found their way in here. Anders is urging Seattle not going to make the playoffs. All right, let's try to break this down. Okay, post game for the U.S. 2-0 win by Japan. Not a game to remember for the U.S. in terms of positive takeaways. No shots on goal. Obviously shut out by another team going to the World Cup. I would say in sort of a similar place as the U.S., which is sort of hovering around that second or third place in their group as far as expectations go. Could get through, could not get through. But Japan outclassing the U.S. Tactically and just technically, performance-wise, overall. I said during the live stream we just did that it can be exhilarating to watch your national team, Charlie. It can also be very difficult at times when they don't play at the level you would hope for, especially given where we are, which is less than 60 days until a World Cup. What are your overriding thoughts after this 2-0 defeat in Dusseldorf?
I'm disappointed like everyone else, just in the approach of the game, not being able to adjust in real time, seeing that certain positioning has not worked, the style of play, they weren't threatening. That's what really is concerning to me. It was they weren't threatening. They were keeping possession at times when they did in their defensive half. There was no deep threats. There was no pushing up the lines. Okay, if we compete and play ugly, then we play ugly. I think that's what was so great about looking back at past men's national teams days, is just being flexible and saying, hey, we don't have it today for whatever reason, but we know that if we're just going to lump it forward and then win possession in the attacking half, then we can start picking the opponents apart, connecting passes, be a little bit more threatening. 1v1 situations, where were they? I didn't see anyone taking 1v1s and getting the better of their player, winning the duels. We weren't winning duels, bad passes. Second half was much better than the first half, but given the complete performance, so subpar.
Where do you stand?
Yeah,
Parky?
I agree. Really good points from Charlie. We talk about, like, why do you keep possession, right? And why do you try and build out of the back? It's to stretch the other team. It's to create overload advantages on the wing to get in behind, right? We tried to build out of the back, but we didn't have nearly enough of that success where you're breaking lines, getting the ball wide, getting crosses in the box, creating opportunities, putting pressure on their back line. It just wasn't there. We saw a couple here and there, but a couple throughout the game is not enough. And, so that's disappointing. It was a huge opportunity for some of the players today to cement getting on the plane at least. And, a couple did okay, and a couple probably are going to have a tough time sleeping tonight thinking about it. And I think Greg will probably have a tough time sleeping tonight thinking, shoot, where do we go from here, right? How do I get the confidence back in the group? Do we adjust things? Did I make the right personnel decisions? All those things. But I don't think it's not doom is gloom, right? I'm an optimistic person. I still think that, like, we've got a talented team, and we're going to get things together, and our performances are going to be much better than that come World Cup.
So we have a bunch of people in our comments here. Johnny B, we should be fine-tuning, not experimenting. There were a number of substitutions in this game, all pre-planned, it seemed, from Greg. Yikes, not encouraging, panic engaged. That game was so disappointing, slow, tired, poor defense, no movement, off the ball, etc. How much of this is truly concerning as it pertains to the World Cup, and how much of this is one bad performance? How much of this carries over? Because we said during the live stream, if you're Wales in game one, if you're England, obviously, but if you're Iran and Wales in particular, you're looking at this match and thinking, we can get at the U.S. if we make them make the game out of the back and route them into predictable positions. They're susceptible to being pressed. And they weren't high pressing at all times, Japan. They were, there was a little like mid-block at times. There were some times where they did go high, but they understood where they wanted to have the ball go and how predictable it would get afterwards.
It's a bit more concerning than just it's a bad game for me.
Right. Yep.
Because there's so much on the line, not for this particular game, but for the players in the game, right? There is a World Cup coming, and like there's not many opportunities to play with your national team before that World Cup happens. And so there's a lot of emphasis on this game. And so you'd hope and expect that the players would be at their top level, right? Giving it everything they've got and being good on the ball and up for the moment. Because at the World Cup, right, you have one game like this and it puts you in a bad hole, right? You have one game like this and it could be that could be it. It could be no coming back from. So it's not like we can forgive it totally. And again, I'm not a doom and gloom guy saying like, okay, no expectations now for the World Cup. But at the same time, I think everybody within the group needs to look at themselves and say, hey, like we cannot have a performance like this when it matters. And today didn't matter as far as being in a tournament or anything like that, but it mattered for all those players on the field. So that's what's concerning.
So Greg Berhalter being interviewed on ESPN right now. First question about the overall game. I think that we can do better. Silly mistakes, silly giveaways. Give credit to Japan for the way they pressed. But he is resisting big picture sort of takeaways, saying they'll evaluate on tape here. And I've heard this from him before. He said he wanted more personality in the match from the players you've played under, Greg. What do you think he means, Parky, about more personality?
Well, I think that sometimes the best, like when we used to play the Red Bulls and they press so well, right? Something that kills a press is somebody being able to dribble by an opponent. Like Charlie said earlier, right? If you've got an outside back that's able to dribble past a pressing winger, or you've got somebody in the midfield who's able with their first touch or a couple touches to escape pressure, it crumbles things because a lot of times the press is man for man, momentarily. And so then somebody has to come over and cover it, and then like things open up. We weren't able to do that anywhere on the field. Like Adams did it one time early in the second half. We talked about it.
Gio had a moment there, but one. Yeah,
exactly. Yeah. Right. And those moments stuck out for us, obviously. Right. And because they were few and far between, but also because it opened things up. So we didn't see enough of that for sure. And I think that's the creativeness that we're looking for. And maybe he was talking about just creativeness and style of play, and overcoming those challenges and changing the way we played. Although something big picture like that could have been communicated from the bench.
Charlie, no shots on goal. That's a concern. I mean, we're talking about, giveaways on the back line, issues, no shots on goal.
No shots on goal. And I'll go back to that Jesus for our chance. That's to start the game. You talk about setting kind of the course of this match on the right, getting everybody in the right frame of mind. And you had a perfect opportunity that comes from Dest. He plays in a perfect ball, and he doesn't put it on goal. He got his whole head on it, so is not too short, and it's the timing. He pulled himself off the center back, found the pocket, but then jumped off like his back heels. You just can't do that. And I'll go back to even Pepe is better in the air than Jesus Ferreira, but Pifuk is a striker who's scoring in the Bundesliga and has height. Like that's where you want him, type of striker, and that's why I think you can't leave him off this roster because you need different options. And at the end of the day, regardless of who's playing there, it just wasn't good enough there because that was just one opportunity. Did we ever see that again? No, we didn't. And that for me is kind of just the signaling the problems within this group because they didn't carry the play to create more opportunities where you have Sergiño Dest in those advanced positions. Because it was one time, and then Japan adjusted, and we didn't. And so just the attack was so poor that is, in essence, kind of our problem in the end, is we didn't generate enough chances. There weren't variety. Set pieces were really poor. When we talk about Weston McKennie, that's one area where he really excels. He was really below average today. I mean, really poor for Weston McKennie, considering where he plays and what he can play too. Not good enough today. Tyler Adams was too active. You know, when someone is so hyped up, he was moving around too much, coming out of position, and therefore there were more gaps and spaces for Japan to exploit. And then Reyna, he had some moments where he was good on the dribble, but not in the attacking half. It was in the defensive half or in the middle third. We want Gio Reyna to be doing that in the attacking third. And then Aronson, when you saw that shot at the end, it was almost like, where was that? It was because we didn't have the ball in the attacking third, and there weren't too many breakthrough moments in transition because we were not in good spaces. We weren't in the right position. So there are so many things that are concerning. I mean, in terms of tinkering, sure. Christian Pulisic's out. Yunus Musa's out. No Timo Weah. No Anthony Robinson. But we should already have our identity down and our players. And I feel like there's too many question marks at this point. I'm not one to put too much stock in friendlies, but this one's disappointing considering there's not many left, and considering that we went a whole cycle in World Cup qualifying. We should know what our strengths are, and we should play to our strengths. We didn't do that at all.
All right, winners and losers. Who are the winners from this? And it may just be guys that aren't here. It may be the likes of PFOC. It may be, Musa in a sense, in sort of the way that the U.S. is relying on his ball advancement ability and that personality, as Greg Berhalter puts it. Michael, who are your biggest winners? And I know this is a difficult segment to do after a match like this, but
I think the biggest winner is Matt Turner. It's never great when the man of the match, especially in a loss, is your goalkeeper, because that means it could have been a lot worse. But he was very good today, so his stock went way up for me. I think Mark McKenzie's stock went up. I think Aaron Long didn't go down too much, but it didn't go up, and I thought McKenzie's went up. So it was good from him. Vines, I thought, was kind of neutral. So for me, I think those two are the only ones whose stock went up. Yeah, that's it. Two that go up.
That kind of says it all. Yeah, it's a center back that came on at halftime to help calm things down, and then your goalkeeper who had to stand on his head 3 or 4 times just to keep it 2-0. Charlie, the guys whose stock went up who were not here did not play, and because they weren't here and not associated with this performance, have to reemerge in Greg's mind. I think PFOC would be sort of your prime guy there as far as guys that just weren't called up. Maybe Chris Richards would be one that would come into more of a place of like, oh, okay, maybe as a starter we have to look at that harder. But not having these opportunities hurts him. I don't think you can say in having an absentia, truly his stock can go up because he can't prove it. Who would you put in the stock up column? Anybody additionally to those two?
No, I'm with Parky. Weah and Musa are probably, and Pulisic, because you can throw in Christian. So those three in particular. Anthony Robinson, I don't know how much of an effect he would have had in this game. You know what you're going to get from him. He's very consistent, but because everything was so disjointed in midfield and the center backs were giving the ball away a ton, I'm not so sure he would have really had an impact the way that we would hope. But for sure, Musa, Weah, and Pulisic. And then I'll again say P-Folk, given that opportunity and knowing he is in form, he wouldn't have started. Even if he was called in, he wouldn't have started this match just because we know Jesus Ferreira would have gotten the start. But that just goes to show how important it is to have a striker that's a little bit different and one that is really apt to take advantage of opportunities just like that in the box. That's his game. His game is just capitalizing on service. He's not a striker who's going to beat you on the dribble. He's not a striker who's known for his movement, maybe his box movement, but not his movement outside of the box and checking to the ball. But you need a striker who's just going to score goals, especially when you're in a situation like you were today. You're down a goal. What kind of substitution can you bring in to change the game? I'd like to see when you're down a goal against Japan. That and him having someone play off of him and create space, and then him capitalizing on balls being whipped into the box. That's an area where Jordan Pefok will thrive. So, I mean, there were a number of players who were below average today. So it's unfair to kind of say Jesus Ferreira didn't do his job, but he had his one opportunity. We talked about that against Uruguay, Morocco in the last round of games. He put himself in good positions, didn't score. Today, put himself in a good position, didn't score. How many times can we put ourselves in good positions and not finish? In the World Cup, you get one opportunity. Typically, that's all it is, especially against an England. It's a side that's better than you across the line. So you have to defend perfectly. The taxes have to be on point. But then when you do get that one chance, you have to capitalize. And if you're talking about a player, has a player given you confidence to say, oh, yeah, let's go with him? No, absolutely not. So that's why I feel like this position is still wide open, and that's a concern.
I'll add two more names now that I'm thinking about it. I think Jordan Morris's stock went up today because I think that he gets on the plane to Qatar, for me, definitely, because this game showed the need for speed and a vertical threat. And right now, I think we talked about it earlier, that only Weah and him provide. And so I don't think that Jordan is a starter on this team, don't get me wrong. But I think he gets on the plane because he provides something that is lacking within the group. And then I think the other name for me is Dest, only because I think Cannon struggled in the second half. And so, I think for some of us, he was a lockdown, but, his club form is a little bit interesting. But now for me, he's locked in as a starter.
Is that a Yedlin, again, an absentia rise as well? I mean, Greg has gone to Yedlin in big matches at right back when Serginho hasn't been available.
Yeah, I think it does help Yedlin for sure. For me, I think that Yedlin for me is a little bit better defensively, and Cannon has a higher ceiling offensively than Yedlin. And so probably that's why the substitution was the way it was today, down at halftime, trying to get back in the game, get more offensive. So maybe that does help Yedlin.
So as we turn the page to Saudi Arabia, we have the U.S. press conference live right now. It's being tweeted out. It's not actually a virtual availability, so we're not able to be on that call. So I'll sort of communicate quotes as they come in if they're pertinent. Greg Berhalter opened his press conference, Charlie, with, quote, "We've got work to do. We clearly need to improve." I'll sort of switch that around and sort of, look, the manager, and Greg knows this, is going to be under pressure. His decisions are going to be put under the microscope. What did you think of the way that Greg set the team up and the tactics in this match? Was there something that Greg could have done different within this performance, or is this a player issue?
I think De La Torre, McKinney, Adams, just there's not enough of a player who can get forward and support Jesus. For me, it's a lot of side to side looking at that midfield. And, De La Torre is a player who is great in a system where you have a defensive midfielder. In Tyler Adams, he would be the 8, and then you have someone who's more of an attacking midfielder. So I don't think De La Torre should have been set up in that position. I would have liked to see Aronson in that position, or Reyna, someone who is going to push a little bit higher. Reyna probably for me would be the guy I would have liked to see central because he's good on the ball, and then he could potentially be the one to break through, find the spots, and be a little bit more aggressive from that midfield position. And then on the wingers, this is a game where Christian Pulisic could have had a big role in terms of getting on the ball and being able to break down players in 1v1 situations. Because in games like this where the passing isn't great, you need guys who are good on the dribble, who can create space on their own and turn guys, run at players. We didn't see that. There just didn't exist. So given that there is no way Musa, Anthony Robinson, I'm okay with his selection. I never thought he'd start Mark McKenzie in this game, but I think Mark McKenzie should definitely start in the next match.
Were there in-game adjustments that Greg could have made, Michael, or is that, we sort of discussed, hey, players have to recognize that as well? I mean, ultimately it comes to the World Cup. I mean, it's going to be, the adjustments have to get made if you're in that position. How do you sort of evaluate that in-game management?
Yeah, I totally agree, right? If it's not going well after 20 minutes, you can't wait until halftime, right? It's too valuable, those 25, 30 minutes, right? And it's both, right? It's the players didn't perform well. There's no doubt about it, right? You've got a game plan. They wanted to try and break through the press, which I get, right? That's the way that Greg plays, right? But when does plan B kick in? Is there a cohesive plan B? Does everybody know that there's a plan B? And when does it get instituted? And that's what was lacking, and that's what's a little concerning for me. Only because I've played with it in it as well, and I know that like you get to a point where then you're second guessing yourself and you're not confident. And oh, should I play these passes? It's not working. There's no openings, and even the other guys that I'm passing it to, they know like, oh my God, if I show for this ball and I get it, I know I've got a guy right up my butt. And do I have another guy supporting me? And then guys kind of shy away from things. And then it becomes a confidence issue. And all the while, the other team's confidence is just growing and growing and growing, and they're like, oh, I can't wait to press this guy. Or like, oh, here's the moment. Like, and they're just growing in confidence as the US team is going the other way. And so, yeah, I do think the adjustment needs to come either from the bench or from the players and say, hey, kick the ball long for a little bit, get the ball in the other half of the field, turn the press around, right? Let's go try and press them. Win some fouls, win some throw-ins, like slow things down a little bit, at least get a breather, get out of your back line, get out of your own half of the field, like those types of things. And the whereabouts to know how to do that and when to do it wasn't there.
You saw the touch map from the first half. At least if you're watching the stream, it was all in our own half. Sort of the most turnovers in our own half and a half during Greg Berhalter's tenure as well. I think that's pretty clear to anybody watching. But 58% possession for the U.S., just 4 shots, none on goal, just 2 corner kicks. Compare that to 42% for Japan, 16 shots, 8 shots on goal, 8 corners. They knew how they wanted to play this game, and their game plan worked very, very well. Here is another quote from Greg Berhalter. You may have seen it on the screen there. We're watching as his press conference goes on. Quote, we need to play with personality. We need to play relaxed. We need to play with intensity. And when we do these things, we're a really good team. But when we don't, we're an average team. What's the reaction to that quote, guys? And then we'll turn our attention to Saudi Arabia.
I think everything that he's saying is expected. He hasn't had a chance to look at it. He's not going to throw anybody under the bus. He knows that guys are going to read some stuff, and he's got a team to prepare for the World Cup, and wants these guys to have confidence in the way that they play. And he's right about some of that stuff, right? You do have to have confidence and play with that fine line of confidence and relax versus like, okay, a sense of like urgency and knowing that, okay, things could break down and how do you balance those things? So yeah, he's not wrong. And, these are expected quotes, I think, from a coach after a performance like that.
Here's another one. Quote, I agree with the energy side of it. Asked whether the team lacked energy today. I don't know if the proximity of the World Cup has anything to do with it. The guys didn't look fresh. And from a physical output, we looked a step behind. They will get on a plane basically immediately and go to Murcia, Spain to play Saudi Arabia, the second of these 2 friendlies. When they go to the World Cup, there will be an MLS camp, a camp for players that are not in the playoffs or whose playoff push has ended in MLS. There'll be time to get those guys sort of up to speed as much as you can physically. and sharpness-wise. But they will get to Qatar with about a week before that first game against Wales, which is now in 59 days. There will not be a long pre-World Cup camp as there has been in the past for sort of fitness and sharpness purposes as a team. There will not be a huge build ahead as far as friendlies to give them opportunities to work out any kinks. This is kind of it in a lot of ways, just given the way the timing works of this particular World Cup. Charlie, look ahead to Saudi Arabia. What do you want to see? What kind of lineup do you want to see? What kind of performance do you want to see? What do we need to see?
I want to see them aggressive in the attacking third. I want to see shots on goal. I want to see transition moments where we're a little bit more direct. It's great to have it look all pretty in possession, but at some point you want to see results. You want to see chances created. You want to see us being on the front foot. I don't care how pretty it is, but be playing the attacking half. The first half, it was like, let's sit back and keep possession. Center backs drop deep and right in front, right on top of Matt Turner. I want to see them high. At some point, I just want to see us using our attacking players and letting them get touches on the ball, because Jesus Ferreira was on the island. He had to defend, and I know Greg wants your center forward. I'd rather have my center forward attacking. I'd rather be looking at chances and seeing him touch the ball. That just didn't exist with the style of play. So for me, it's about he used the word personality in the post-game interview. Let's see that attacking personality. Let's see guys want to have the ball and create chances and beat players on the dribble and combined. That's what I'm focused on.
What about you, Michael?
Yeah, I agree. I will see a confident group, right? Whatever the game plan is, right? Do it with confidence. Play like you belong on the team and at the World Cup and representing the U.S., right? Play up to the moment, right? This isn't a World Cup game, no, but this is some of those guys' World Cup games, right? This will determine whether they get a chance to do it at the World Cup, right? So play up to the moment. For today's performance just seemed like some guys were timid, and especially when things didn't start off well in the first 10 minutes, right? And then, it became contagious, some of the touches and bad plays, right? I just want to see a group play up to the moment, right? Even if things don't go well, even if you don't finish your chances, right? At least create some, right? You're going to make a bad pass every now and then. That's fine. But the overall confidence of the group and individuals, I really hope it's much better against Saudi Arabia.
Are there any changes to the 11 that you would want to see? You mentioned Mark McKenzie, Charlie. Are there any personnel changes that you would like to see? How does that lineup look to you? We'll start with you, Parky.
Yeah, I agree. I would definitely give Mark the opportunity to play next to Walker from the start and see how that goes. Do
you make a change up top, or is it Jesus' opportunity once again? I mean, he had the one chance, but we sort of went over it. Like your team doesn't have the ball, you're getting pressed off the park in your own half. It's pretty hard to affect the game in that sense. I mean, winger wise, was it the right mix?
I think winger wise. Yeah, I think that assuming Pulisic can't go, I think that was the right call with the wingers. So I would probably stick with them again. I'd like to see a little bit of change in at the number 8 position. If you take De La Torre out, and who do you bring in? Who do you give that opportunity to? There's a couple different players, right? Whether you play Tillman or Acosta. Who do you put in that position, and kind of affects how the team plays. But I would make that change and see how the midfield group performs with a little bit different of a personnel. At the starting center forward position, I don't know. That's a really tough one.
It's a question for Charlie.
It is a question for Charlie. He's the striker. I'm not. So.
Yeah. At this point, I'm going to start Sargent and see what he can do. I think Ferreira had his time. He didn't score his goal, although I understand the game was rough. But that's just how it is sometimes. You have to figure out ways to make an impact if you're not getting the ball. And he had his one opportunity, and then defensively or getting on the ball, okay, figure out a way to earn fouls, whatever it is. He was lost in that game. So I would give the opportunity to Josh Sargent and then bring on Pepe as a substitute for Sargent if nothing comes from that.
I'll end you guys on this one, and you can see here on screen that U.S. Saudi Arabia Tuesday, 2 p.m. Eastern, FS1 Unimas Studio, and we will do another one of these watch-alongs as well. Thank you to everybody who tuned in on Twitch and YouTube Live. Does this performance change in any way at all either of your expectations for the U.S. and Qatar at the World Cup? That's a no for you.
Not for me,
so
no.
Your expectations remain what?
Get out of the group. You get out of the group. At the very minimum, you get out of the group, and the expectation is you finish second in the group to England, but you're getting out of the group.
Yeah.
This team should beat Wales, and this team should beat Iran. So, the wild card game is England. You're expected to lose, but you can get a result. With a great performance, you can definitely get a result against England, especially considering that all the pressure is on England. So, no, nothing changes for me. All I know is that this game better light a fire under the butts of every single player on in this possible camp, as well as Berhalter. Just being a little bit more aggressive. And maybe it's one of those things where you say, okay, this has been our philosophy most of the time, but let's be a little bit more direct. Because let's play to our strengths. At the end of the day, how many players do we have that can really play out of the back? I always used to say that when we played against the Columbus Crew, Parky. You didn't have too many players that were confident on the ball. And I know that's what Greg wants you guys to do and force you guys to play that way. But then you get to a point where you're saying, okay, if anyone's going to play out of the back, it's Parky. And if Parky's not on the ball, guess what? We're going to be a little bit more direct. We're not going to take time on the ball. And then things got better for you because teams were confident that players would take extra touches or make that pass, and that didn't happen. Then the game really opened up for you guys. So I think we can't just focus on building out of the back when sometimes we don't have the players to build out of the back. When you have Aaron Long and Walker Zimmerman as your center backs, you can't build out of the back. I'm sorry, that's not their strength. That is not it. They have improved their game playing passes, but that's not their strength. So I'd say kind of step away from that being kind of the responsibilities of our back line.
I hope that we can look back, when the World Cup occurs, or maybe after the first game of the World Cup, and say, hey, man, I'm glad we got our butts kicked, in that game. It was a great lesson to be learned, and it was a good time to learn it as a group, and we learned from it, right? If that is the case, then you can still look at today as a positive of like, hey, the group learned a lot in that game, right? We learned how to face adversity. We learned, okay, if you're not on your best at the day, on the day, which might happen at a World Cup, hopefully not, how do you still get a result, right? Even if you're not good, right? Can you still get a result? Because that's what matters. And so hopefully there's lessons learned today. That's the best you can ask for from a game like today.
I think the U.S. has been at their best, and it seemed like Greg had sort of acknowledged that this group is at their best. Pressing, being a little bit more direct, not necessarily being the team that has to make the game, which they had tried to be really in the early parts of his tenure. But Japan flipped the script on us. Japan had the game played in the areas of the field that they wanted played in at the pace they wanted played, and they take the win today, 2-0. A learning experience, we hope, for the U.S. We'll be back on Tuesday for U.S. Saudi Arabia, hoping for a better result. That's always the deal. 59 days to Wales.
Much love to everybody.
Yeah,
Thank you.
Been a joy to watch with you guys.
I am joining Heath and Jimmy now. So
to pick your brains and your expertise. So thank you to Michael Parkhurst and Charlie Davies. Thanks to everybody who watched. We'll be back on Tuesday. Enjoy the rest of your day, everybody. Adios.